But yeah,
We
we
met.
had oh my god, we had a lot of fun with the horror at Red Hook. I've got to say, it's that dichotomy of it being the most racist of Lovecraft stories, but also one of the best written.
Yeah, well, Jack and I have talked about this kind of thing with Conrad so many times. I
Ah,
mean,
yes, Conrad did come up actually.
Heart of Darkness is
Heart of
both
Darkness. Yeah, I
he
mean,
and I. It's amongst our
oddly,
favourite novels, and my God, but it's
yeah.
somehow it's racism is
Mhm.
somehow necessary to its texture because
Yes.
it is an anti-imperialist story, but it needs that racism to
Hmm.
almost to push through. Um, the basically when the
Yes.
context of that time,
Well, that's exactly
uh,
what we got from the horror at Red Hook. To be perfectly honest,
mhm.
it has a certain incredible energy to it, like a certain almost joie de vivre that doesn't occur in Lovecraft very much. You know,
Mm.
he tends to be a very cold writer, doesn't he? Very clinical,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
analytical. You know, the horror at Red Hook, because it does have this seething racism underneath it, and Lovecraft is just, you can almost feel him like jabbing the pen into the page, and he's slathering almost. There are parts of that story that are absolutely frothingly racist.
But ironically, I think it's almost easier to deal with than some of the offhand, sort of
Mm,
arbitrary bits of racism
yes.
that infest his other stories,
Well,
which because they're annoying because you go,
yeah,
oh, oh, if only that were edited away. But
exactly right.
this is
This,
different.
it's
It's
full on. I
absolutely
mean, it
bound
is
up with it.
absolutely full on. You see it coming. This is it's not the viper in the grass. This is the bull in the field, you know?
Mm,
And once you've got that, once you understand that's what you're getting, you are getting what, I mean, Jack coined it brilliantly. He said it is absolutely Nazist myth making.
yeah,
That's
that's
what it
exactly
is.
right. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what it is. And once you've got that, you can sort of handle it. Don't get me wrong, there are parts of that story, there are certain phrases and descriptions that he uses that make you just recoil.
Mm,
Um, but that's where its energy comes from.
yeah.
Unfortunately, that's where all of its vitality comes from.
And I think there's something. I, it's somehow a bit easier when it's prose, when it's the written word or the printed word, because you are going to it. I mean, I think it's
Right,
much harder in different media because you are sort of it hits you. You go to watch a film or
right.
you go to what a television show or so, and it's got either latent or blatant racism in it or whatever.
Hmm.
You're sort of at the mercy of it. At least with this, you can go in having sort of girded your loins a bit.
A little bit,
Which
yes. I
yeah,
mean, fortunately, what happened was we were meant to record it much earlier, but for various reasons, we had to put it off. And it gave time for the sediment to settle a little bit,
oh, that's
you
good.
know,
Yeah,
which was good, because if we'd recorded it when we intended to, it would have just been a very different matter. The whole
yeah,
podcast would have been very different, because I was still very much sort of like, Howard, really? You know, that was my entire response. It was, Howard, what is wrong with you?
yeah.
Um,
Going and briefly back to Alien because I
mm,
just wanted to say two of the
mm.
things I really enjoyed in the bit when I was already tucked up in bed
Oh, when
was
you've
the
been spirited away.
I've been cocooned.
Yeah, you've been
Um,
cocooned.
um, I really liked the chat. Two bits of chat you had, three actually. One was about when you were talking, and it's a very good preempt on the fly actually about being put into confrontation with our own bodily functions,
Hmm.
and that was a good bit of conversation. I really liked the conversation that you were having about how the cruelties, particularly with I guess with the death of Lambert, with the alien, that's only because
Mm,
it's the son of Cain, that it's
right.
had contact with
Yes.
human beings,
It has an
and
element of the human in it, right? It's
exactly,
a hybrid entity.
absolutely bang on. And the third thing, again, it's something that we've kind of skirted around on other podcasts, but it was very well discussed, I thought, between the two of you, which was about this phenomena of this switch over in cinema to now sort of announcing themes but basically, I think Jack said making the film the review.
Yes, it's absolutely true. It is. It
It
was a
really is.
phenomenon. I mean, it's not so bad at this point. There seems to have been like that the high watermark has been reached and it's started to recede a little bit. But there
Well, I
was
think it's been
certainly a
transferred to television.
period.
That's why. I think it's
Yes,
been
that's what's
transferred to
happened.
television
Yes,
because obviously all the
Netflix and
streamers are like,
yes,
"Oh, you've got to explain everything
yeah,
like
that's
three
it.
times," you know. And I
It's the
think
Nolan
maybe,
effect, isn't it? The Nolan
yeah,
effect of like, oh, we know that films are about themes, so we've
yeah,
got to point out the themes and the fact that
yeah,
our film is about themes to the point whereby we've almost got to turn to the audience and say, "Did you notice that? Did you
yeah.
see
It's
that?
like
That's a
making
theme."
subtext supratext. It's
Yeah.
very annoying.
Sometimes
Uh,
it can work. On
mm.
rare occasions, when something is very conscious of the fact that it's doing that, it
Well, you made a good
can
call
work.
about threads actually, because I thought, yeah, because threads can only be what it is. It can
Yeah.
only it can't be anything else
No,
except what it's saying. But
there's a
it does it.
horrible, awful purity to Threads,
Yeah.
and it is horrific. I mean, part of what makes it awful is that purity, the fact that there's no wiggle room here. There's no way of reading this in any other way. It is what it is, and what it is the clarion call for the end of civilization, the end of humanity, and that's it.
It's
That's it.
definitely one of the pieces of media that I know I can't watch again.
I
It's embedded in me. I just know I
yeah.
can't watch it again. Funnily enough, for a very different reason, the next log is going to
Oh,
be a unique experience in which is I'm going to be part of the discussion without actually rewatching it,
are you
because
not
The
going to
Fly
rewatch The
is one of
Fly?
those it's one of those really rare instances. Threads is another
Hmm.
of a piece of screen fiction
Uh-huh.
in the case of film that I absolutely rate incredibly highly, but I don't like watching it.
Yeah, I totally understand. Totally understand. It's
I think The
grueling.
Fly is an
Hmm.
incredible piece of cinema. It's just an incredible movie on almost every front.
Almost every level, right?
I can't deal with it.
No, I get it.
It's worse.
It's so visually grueling. I mean, it's repulsive. I mean, you do see a man falling apart on screen
Well, it's not just the
effectively.
repulsion of what happens to him. I think that it's in the entire movie. There's everything down to even before like the plot kicks in. I think the production design brilliant, but at the same time so oppressive.
Yes.
The lighting so
Hmm.
oppressive.
Hmm.
Everything is just like so difficult to get
Yeah.
through.
Those
Um,
urban environments, the claustrophobia, and then that close focus, the way Cronenberg absolutely, it's almost, in many respects, it's the anti-traditional horror film where, where everything occurs in shadows. No, no,
mm,
no, no, no. He
it's all
wants you
out
to
there.
see this. It's like, no, we're going to drag it into the limelight. I'm going to show you everything that is
I
happening
know
here.
it's something that we'll no doubt touch on, but because we were that generation just under the major wave of victims, for that film to be in to emerge in the era of HIV, I think
Right.
is particularly makes it particularly grueling. I was talking to Vic about this recently because obviously by dint of age we were we became aware of this,
Hmm.
but obviously it took out a lot of young people who were half a generation or a generation above us.
Yes.
uh, but I said the horror that it embedded in me as a late Gen Xer, and Vicky agreed. I said
Hmm.
because of those appropriately John Hurt voiceover ads and all those warnings. I said
Yes.
the profound fear of sex
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
collision with the excitement around sex because you're a young person. But I said I can still remember feeling like, and you think, my God, a couple of generations ago didn't have to consider this. Um, oh well, I've had a few sexual partners in the last
Hmm.
month, because you've been going out clubbing or whatever,
Right.
and you're absolutely at that age. Oh, I better go to the gun clinic,
I
or
better
the
go.
equivalent of
Yeah.
we had it in this, and just sitting and waiting, and there was, and where later because it was so mainstreamed, the idea of young people going to their clinic just to get routine tests every
Oh,
3 months
yes.
or whatever
Yeah, yeah.
is a nothingness. Then it felt quite shameful.
Yes, I mean
Um,
it's an interesting phenomenon, isn't it? As a result of that period, I mean, queer people generally do just get checked. It's
yeah,
just what we do, you know. I go every month. I go every month
yeah.
and get checked, you know.
Having to
Um,
explain to a doctor in 1996
right,
that
right.
I was a bisexual man, that I was having sexual relationships with men and women,
Mhm.
was almost impossible to say aloud.
To conceive
And,
of,
and
right? I mean,
actually,
yeah,
the guy was great,
yeah.
but now it wouldn't
Well,
bother me at all.
again, I mean, this is interesting because this demonstrates the difference. I mean, even though it's only a few years, it demonstrates the difference between us, between our
Mm,
ages. I mean, I'm a few years
yeah, because I
younger
know
than
there's a
you.
little gap between us
There
as
is a
well.
little gap. There is a little gap. I'm a millennial, technically.
Mm.
I'm like the earliest possible millennial. It's February 1984. You know,
Oh,
so
I'm February 1980.
yeah, right, right. So I wasn't sexually active until what, the late 90s.
Yeah,
And by that point, really, medicine had changed
already a
profoundly.
change. Yeah.
Really, it had. I mean, it wasn't much of a muchness, really. I started going, you know, to the GUM, to the doctor and whatnot, and it was like, yeah, whatever. Oh, you're a homosexual, man. Okay, fine.
Mm.
Let's sort this out. You know.
I think
Um,
things as well because of where I fall and everything. I still find the idea that things like prep exists
yeah.
so
Oh my
impossible to get my
God.
head around sometimes because
I.
there was
Oh.
such a long period where it was just this most terrifying like terminus.
Mm,
Um, and then you started to hear stories about like people who were positive who had that the drugs that they were able to, so they could live like a completely full life,
mhm.
but it was still very difficult to get your head. Prep was one of the most bizarre things for
Yeah.
me to get my head around. I almost didn't believe it. I thought, it's witch doctor stuff, how can this
It's
work?
magic, right? It's magic, yeah. And
And
it's
like,
so
sure, you still have to wear
interesting,
condoms as well. Like the people go,
right?
well, no, not necessarily. No, it's useful for other things, but
It's
to
absolutely, yeah. But
other
it,
STIs. But
it's also the fact that it passed without almost any cultural commentary whatsoever in the mainstream.
yeah,
I know so many straight people who have no idea what you're talking about when you mention prep.
and of course, it is very, very difficult. Um, because there's a gender imbalance here as well,
Hmm.
because I know a lot of women who find it very, very difficult to get prep, and it's
Right,
like they're trying to say, look, hang on a moment, I meet, for example, I might meet a bisexual man,
right.
so it's an extra layer
So
of protection for me,
yeah.
and it is not the gay plague.
Oh well,
Why do we?
now
Why do we? But it's still kind of embedded.
it's still
Um,
embedded in culture, isn't it? It's
it's still
assumed
embedded
to
in
be.
culture. But right back to the practice themselves, because I know several women who've like, I have tried to so many ways to get on prep, and it's
Mhm.
so difficult. I have to
Yeah.
jump through so many hoops.
Do you know what's particularly amazing about that? It happened. It was about 5 years ago. There was a medical journal published which said that in the UK and in most Western countries, because of the legacy of HIV/AIDS and the fact that queer people do go and get tested and are
Yeah,
taking precautions, the rates of new infections of HIV and AIDS are there are now more straight people
yes,
than
yeah.
gay people, and
But
that's like
it's
what
it's
what.
interesting because I am amazed among like
Mhm.
straight friends who, some of them who are not in, for example, monogamous
Right.
relationships, they're still, out doing their thing,
Yeah.
how little precaution they
I
take and how
know.
little they know.
Yes.
I've literally had the conversation with someone. So, well, yeah, of course I use protection. I use condoms. I said, what? Yeah, but you must get tested because I'm
Yes.
assuming you have oral sex. And they look
Right.
at you aghast. I'm saying, well, you can get like
You,
chlamydia and gonorrhea and
yeah.
syphilis orally,
Oh,
and they
absolutely.
look at
Yeah.
you as if you're mad. I said, no,
If you,
you
I
really
mean,
must get tested.
I
But
know,
again, it's that thing.
you
It's like,
know,
well, that's what and I said, no, it's not. Because actually, it's perpetuating among the straight community.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's because of that very attitude, right? It's because of that almost sublimated queerphobia that these things are queer phenomena. They're not things that straight people have to worry about. And I don't care if you're married. I don't care if you're active. You should get tested. You should get checked because queer people know this. People do have affairs. People do cheat. People do have, and you can get something so very easily. It sounds really didactic, and I know it sounds like a bit finger wagging, but if you're active, you should get checked. It's as simple.
Oh no, I agree. I totally agree. No, it's 1+1. But it is interesting how the struggle that particularly single women have to access certain things, because the assumption is that they're straight, or if they are in a gay relationship, there's no penetration. It's like you can get STIs from sex toys, you can get STIs from oral sex. For heaven's sake, but it's very hard to get the critical mass to get the change. Whereas as a bisexual guy, I'm like, right, it's like, oh, what do you need?
Yeah, right.
It's like, I'm actually okay at the moment. It's okay, but they're falling over to give you stuff.
Yeah, it's also true if you're a gay man. It's just like, well, you are part of the historical demographic, so there you are. There's your prep. There's your whatever. It comes through the fucking mail these days. It's like, great.
It's Vic.
Sorry, Vic. I do apologise, but we went off on one there. I do.
No, I was taking my time. I was trying to get my settings sorted. It just took a bit longer. I've not recorded.
Just to finish my thought, it is exactly
go for it.
Why everyone. Well, what happened to monkeypox? Well, what happened was gay men and bisexual men did not want to feel like they were going to be stigmatized all over again for something, and they got on it, and the bloody thing's almost non-existent again.
Yes, because of an inoculation. Yeah,
exactly. They just went and did it.
And also, I mean, because of it's a cultural thing as well, because of the way gay guys generally seem to meet these days, which is primarily now through apps. It's not the clubs anymore.
No,
it's there are. I mean, the apps themselves have actually adapted, so you can put on your profile, "I'm inoculated against this, and this."
Well, that's really good.
It's good, isn't it? It's really cool. I'm on PrEP. I'm positive. I'm not positive. I'm this. I'm that. It's
just really... like Vic. This came out of a discussion because our next not the same log is The Fly, and I was saying about The Fly very, very strongly associated with that wave of HIV that killed so many.
It's such an interesting film because it absolutely has that. I mean, my God, yes, it is so salient in that regard to what's going on culturally, but it's also about on top of that, in a wider sense, it's just about broadening cultural understanding of disease and of medical concerns.
It's certainly not. It's certainly it's a fairly prolific text, but it's just
very much
that is a very strong reading.
Yeah, that The Thing, right? The Thing is very much an AIDS film. It's very much an HIV film. Whether it was meant as that, which it probably wasn't, doesn't really matter. It keyed into
still
something.
Read as that. Due to the context. Yeah.
It keyed into something ambient, something in the air.
The ambient, yeah. Now, just to change tack, Vic's. Your microphone, your voice sounds fine to me. I had to turn mine down a bit because George was getting a lot of plosives.
I was getting a lot of sort of pop sounds. Yeah.
Oh, is mine okay?
Further away.
Sounds good.
Cool. I put the gain on G.
Right. So I'm already doing my OBS recording. I'm just gonna start the recording here when she goes.
Excellent. And is that accessible for everybody?
Recording in progress.
There we go. There we go. I will send the files over to you guys so you can do what as and when.
Thanks,
wow.
George.
No problem at all. No, and welcome, by the way, Vicky. We were talking about sort of getting you on at some point,
This is so surreal because you've been a voice in our house for so long, and I'm actually in conversation with you.
Ironically.
I probably have had a parasympathetic relationship with you for some time, unbeknownst to you.
Okay. Oh, yes, I like that.
Well, just for a bit of context, Vicky does listen to... Well, she's listened to all the ones all the not the same logs that we have done, with the exception.
I love them.
with the
Oh,
exception
thank you.
of Prince of Darkness, for the simple reason that she hasn't seen it yet. But we're going to
Yes.
remedy that at some point. But
Actually, I just think I've not seen The Fly either when you guys were
Oh,
talking about that.
my God!
have you not? Oh my
No.
god! So
No,
the
I've
annoying
Goodness
thing
me.
was every
We're gonna
time
have to watch that without Rob in the room.
Yeah, I can't
This is
watch
what I
it yet.
found out, actually. I'm going to have to get my own copy. Yeah.
But the annoying thing was that every time we listened back to the most recent Not the Same log we had done, I'd have this situation. We would usually listen to it while cooking, and Vicky would be responding to a point that you had made or Jack had
Oh, I would
made.
chat back, yeah.
And I'd be like, "That's a really great point." And
Right.
oh my god, why don't I'm sure the guys would be fun. Why don't you come? And Vicky's always been
Love
like,
to.
no, that's your thing. That's that's the three of you, the three musketeers. So this was partly one of the reasons, one of a sort of cluster of reasons why I was like, I've got to think of an idea whereby I can get Vicky in front of a
Draw
mic,
me in, and I would say yes.
because she keeps making these really great points and the world doesn't hear them.
But I mean, like, you know,
I don't know if the world needs to hear
honestly,
my rantings.
with regards to Not the Same log, we would love to have you on. We'd love to have
that's
you on. It'd be
really
great.
kind.
It would be so good. I mean, one of the things about Not the Same log, it's great when we come from so many different backgrounds with so many different influences, but it would actually be great to have a woman at one point.
Well, someone made the point
It's a
on
bit
the
phallocentric, isn't it? Let's be honest.
someone
It
made
is a
the
little
point
bit.
when we were doing Alien. Actually, I think that someone made a comment. You know, it was a
really?
broadly positive comment about the episode, but they said, you know, you guys ended up talking about gender, and you talked about gender well, which was nice to hear. But you know, these three guys talking about gender, and I thought, yeah, good point.
Yeah, it is a good point. It is a good point. And with regards to Alien in particular, you know, which gender is so, it's so specific to
Integral.
that film. It's integral, absolutely.
It was kind of really threaded throughout when we watched, because obviously I watched it with Rob when he was prepping, which has been really good, actually, watching the films with him and then hearing you guys talk about it. But yeah, gender is an integral part of that movie.
I can't remember where you were when I watched Prince of Darkness. I think you were away. I think you might have been on one of your
one of my weekenders.
one of your weekend.
Honestly, that's a must watch. Prince of Darkness.
Okay.
It's one of his Carpenter's great underrated masterpieces.
Terrific.
Oh, it's Carpenter. Okay.
Oh
cool.
yes. Oh, it's very Carpenter. Very Carpenter.
And very Quatermass in the Pit. Just going back.
Okay, now that I have seen.
Still, by the way, guys, that one, for some reason, Quatermass was the one that took off recently. People love that one. They love it. Absolutely love that one.
Great film.
I'll tell you what else Prince of Darkness is not something that's influenced it, but something it's an influence on. Because I'm sorry about this, George. Like Jack, Vicky is someone else who watches classic Doctor Who. Vicky's favorite.
Yes, that is actually correct.
I've got to do it just so I understand all the references. I've got to go and watch.
Oh, there's so many, because there is years of the decades of references and this stuff.
That's the thing. It's a bit intimidating. It's a little bit intimidating. I don't really know where to start.
I would
you've got
say,
the right
like
man on the call here.
It should be sampled rather than marathoned.
Yes, I think you and Jack did say at one point you're going to have to put together a list, right?
Yeah,
the best of and the worst of, maybe.
Yeah, but there's a particular story called "The Curse of Fenric," which Vicky adores.
I've heard of that one.
And The Curse of Fenric is basically John Carpenter's The Fog and John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness fused together with a load of Bletchley Park.
Okay, that sounds great.
So from having seen, like, getting 3 out of the 4 of those references, okay, that makes Prince of Darkness quite interesting.
Yeah,
Prince of Darkness. I mean, now, if you think back to watching Curse of Fenric, Vic, and I just say that of green evil liquid, deciphering stuff via computers like runes, or the priest who loses his faith. Yeah, it's all in Prince of Darkness.
Prince of Darkness. Yeah, you are.
Okay,
absolutely describing.
Doctor Who was original for once.
Yeah, right.
I was wrong.
No, Doctor
I'm
Who's
afraid my Who knowledge it is relegated to the new Who.
It's amazing how quickly that you can pick it up, because I knew very little before meeting this fella. That has now changed.
Yeah, sorry,
I've got to do it. I've just got to do it. Dive in at some point, bite the bullet, and just do it. It should be a thing. It should be a thing. We should make a podcast of it. You know, you should introduce
taking
me
you through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Jack and I did say that it might be quite fun as part of the current log series, because just to do one, because obviously the current log series has been more leaning into science fiction and horror fusions, really.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
And there's a few Doctor. I mean, the obvious one, and I think Jack mentioned it as well, because we did Alien. 4 years before Alien, there was a Doctor Who serial called The Ark in Space, which is about a creature that infiltrates and lays its eggs in human beings, and then they hatch out, and then the person becomes that melds with the alien form, and an awful lot of the aesthetics and iconography
that's interesting.
It really is. I've got to say, when you watch it, George.
Yes,
I'm sure you will now. Yeah. You're going to watch it and go, oh, it's this one, isn't it? You were talking about, guys.
It's so funny though, because we all know and love and adore Alien. It is quite weird to watch what is basically the children's television version of Alien.
It really is. When you told me this came first, I was really shocked.
I imagine it's a bit like going back and watching that Outer Limits episode, the Future Soldier. Yeah, and after watching Terminator, the one that was written by Harlan Ellison, which Terminator was kind of basically ripped off from.
Yeah, I know exactly.
To the point whereby, like, James Cameron was actually successfully sued by.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. Harlan Ellison is not a man to cross. He was not a writer to cross. He was quite vicious, and he got paid. Guy got paid. Let's put it that way. And also got a special mention. Yes, there was an agreement. Yes.
I mean, that's another classic example of what I mean. Would say in relation to classic Who, because the Outer Limits, the 60s Outer, is definitely another series that is best sampled rather than marathoned.
Yes,
but there are some amazing episodes of the Outer Limits from the 60s, but you don't want to watch
some of them are not. Yeah,
some of them absolutely.
There was a revival series, wasn't there, in the 1990s, I believe, the late 1990s.
Familiar. I don't think I watched it, but that does ring a bell.
I think it spilled out as a result of X-Files' success.
It's very much. It is very much treading on the coattails of the X-Files, very much so, and it's not good, but it is interesting as a kind of window into the 1990s and what was going on.
Oh, that's quite interesting, because having lived through it, to kind of go back and have a look through that window. Yeah.
Oh, honestly, I mean, I was a kid. I was a teenager at the time, so the X-Files was everywhere, and suddenly, everyone was interested in alien conspiracies and Roswell. And so on.
Rob did make me laugh when he said there is a later X-Files episode where they do look back and go, "Oh, sorry guys, was this our fault?"
All conspiracy theories and the wing reaction, is this our fault?
It's so interesting because, of course, the portrayal of conspiracy theorists in the X-Files, i.e. Fox Mulder, they're kind of cuddly and harmless. That's not what they're like at all. They are not cuddly, and they are not
the lone gunmen. They are not.
No, there is harm for sure.
More saliently, I've been preparing for this one, and I've been going back over our man's back catalogue.
Oh yeah,
right. I was listening to Outside earlier today.
Oh,
wow. His bad self. Yep.
My favourite David Bowie album, maybe not his absolute best. I mean, I always say I would probably cut about 20 minutes of it, but my personal favourite, the one that got me into him.
Yeah. It's something, isn't it? It's something else. I mean, even when what he does doesn't necessarily work, it's always a fascinating experiment. And this is it was making me feel things.
Yeah.
It was absolutely making me feel things.
I still have a sensory memory of the first time I encountered that album. And Vicky knows this story. I was in the room of my then girlfriend, and we had we're talking 1996, so we had.
I was going to ask you when it came out. Yeah.
Well, it came out in 95, but I think I either heard it. I think I heard it around the sort of New Year period, so going into 96. But we had.
I can remember that New Year period. Wow.
Yeah, we had a diet of albums that we always listened to. This particular girlfriend, so we were proper little goths, so we were either listening to
well, this is perfect, isn't it?
Or like Violator era Depeche Mode, or we might go off into various other things. And she put Outside on, and I didn't know what it was, and it started up, and I went, God, who's this? And she said, it's David Bowie. And my knowledge of David Bowie at that point, 16 or whatever I was Labyrinth. So I was sort of looking at her quizzically, going, "What?
This is the Goblin King. This is Jareth.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? This is the Magic Dance guy."
I remember I was sat in front of a mirror because we were going to go clubbing, and I was putting on eyeliner, and I sat in front of this mirror in a state of shock. It was on a cassette, so for the first half of the cassette. And she switched it over and put it on the other side. And we reached the end, and I think she said something along the lines of, "That's the quietest I've ever known you." And I said, "That was amazing."
Well,
where has this been in my life?
Also, there's a whole load of valences going on there, isn't there? So, like, you were in front of a mirror doing your goth thing, putting on makeup as a man, not necessarily understanding that the reason you're able to do that is partially because of Bowie's
I like that link
influence.
back. Yeah.
Exactly.
What you were listening to, and you hadn't even known. You're like, who is this dude?
You weren't even aware of the fact, right? I mean, not to mention the fact that Bowie has been openly bisexual since like what, the 70s?
Yeah.
Insane.
I mean, it was a curious thing because there was obviously, I had a blind spot because I'm Generation X, and his major success period, his major period as a high status, important artist, recording artist and performer, had been in the 1970s.
Of course, hunky-dory, etc.
The early 80s, which was really my parents' generation. But my parents had been into him. And therefore, there was just this gap. I mean, I didn't even know what Let's Dance was. All I knew was Labyrinth because I'd been taken to see it as a kid.
Wow.
So it was, so my introduction to David Bowie was Outside.
Wow. I mean,
and I became obsessed with it. But it was, I mean, this was around the time, where I was mainlining Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. I didn't even really make the
connection. Of course, he rocked up in that.
Was in that.
But I was going to say, yes, of course, he's in Fire Walk with Me, isn't he?
Yeah.
But because it was...
yes, he becomes a big magic teacup in the... Yeah.
Indeed he does. But because it was sort of... again, it's the ambient thing, stuff in the air. Because it was sort of in the... David Lynch and David Bowie seem to be in kind of the same area, but across different media.
Which I think they both recognised in each other.
Of course. They're almost kindred spirits.
It was perfect for me. It was like... I don't know what this is, but this is the most extraordinary thing I've heard. And
I mean, I was trying to dope out when I first became aware of David Bowie's existence, and I can't because, again, I was born in 1984, so he was very much mythic at that point. He was just part of culture. He was an ambient figure. It was one of two things. It was either Labyrinth, because that was probably one of the first films I ever saw in my life, certainly that I became consciously aware of, or it was the 1984 version of The Snowman. Because of course he's at the beginning of that.
He introduces
it. Yeah,
no idea.
They very often lock that off these days, but
they do, which is a great shame. It's a great shame.
It's so famous. I had no idea he was involved.
Yes, it was a new version of The Snowman in 1984, and it just has this live action introduction where David Bowie is playing the boy as an adult. And he has the scarf that the snowman gives him, and he's telling the story. He's telling the story in retrospect.
He was very involved in that company, wasn't he? Because, of course, he did part of the soundtrack for When the Wind Blows.
Of course he did, yes.
Did he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he's sort of very embedded in their world as well, which is
which I've not seen.
With Raymond... you've not seen When the Wind Blows?
Oh, that's
my God.
Very
I've had Rob... Elliot share it with me scene by scene, I think, when we had that. Yeah, we went through it. We had a period of being into it.
That is one of those. It's one of those books and one of those cartoons where one of those pieces of media, really, where I would say it's amazing. It's almost 110% successful in what it intends to do. But
overly successful. I like it. It exceeded its own. Objective.
Big caveats. It is one of the most desolate, disturbing pieces of media. It's horrific. That's, I mean, as Threads is for you, Rob. I
agree with you about Where Wind Blows. I think it's just an intensely sad movie.
It's beautiful in its own peculiar way. It's just horrific. I mean, it's a work of sublime genius on almost every level. It does exactly what it intends to do, and what it intends to do is make you feel awful.
Wow.
Yeah, I probably will never watch that again. Ever.
No. That seems to be a running theme tonight. Things we won't watch.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? On the other hand, Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Which we
watched it quite recently, didn't we?
Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, I loved it as a kid. I loved it as a kid for lots of different reasons. I mean, great puppets. I love fantasy. I love anything like that. But coming back to it, I remember coming back to it as a teenager when you're starting to develop critical faculty and thinking to myself, well, it's a film from childhood. I have sentimental attachment to it, but it probably isn't going to be that great. And actually being utterly blown away by it.
Yes,
utterly blown away.
Yeah. I think coming back to it, watching it at different stages of my life, I kind of pick up different things from different threads of the character journeys.
I was just shocked. I was shocked by it. I mean, ostensibly, it's a children's film. It's aimed at a child audience, but it has all of this very interesting stuff about sexual awakening and identity.
Yeah, massive. I mean, I watched it for the first time when it was in the cinema, age 10. I'd been 9, coming up to 10, and had no idea about that side of it at all. But it's all in there. Watched it as I got back to and watched it again.
Jokingly, but only half jokingly. I sort of sometimes attribute it for my queerness. It's sort of like,
really?
Labyrinth did it to me. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's very, very sexual, that film.
It is. It is. Really is.
There's a reason
but I think
why.
I first identified with the Jim Henson's Creature Workshop at age 10.
Yes, absolutely.
But yes, as I came back to it at different ages, I did pick up the different
it's such a great bit of casting David Bowie as the Goblin King, because of course the original conception was the Goblin King would have been a goblin. It wasn't until later they thought about introducing a rock star, and there were lots of different people apparently. One of the potentials was Michael Jackson.
And it's like follows it in quite a different way.
The fact that the Goblin King kidnaps a young child, probably, it wouldn't have. That film would not have aged well.
No.
Let's put it that way. With Jackson in the main role, but Bowie, this character who is a sexual icon, and making the Goblin King, the character, highly sexualized in his nature, the way he responds to Sarah.
But there's already a tension. I mean, even without, say, casting Jackson, even with casting Bowie, because Bowie being a part of that coterie of 1970s rock stars and the whole groupie phenomenon, and the whole no one was ever quite certain on the ages of people, and there was it can still be quite astonishing watching Labyrinth, because it can't help but freight in that wholly irresponsible and
totally. It works on a meta level as well, though, because of course, I mean, we know that this is Sarah's psychoscape. It's her dreamscape, right? So she would be aware of rock stars and people like Bowie on a cultural level, and they would have this sexual valence to them. So the fact that she has made him into this avatar of her own sexual awakening is kind of interesting. It makes a great deal of sense. I mean, oh my God, the Belle Lebet scene, that's just hot. It's a case of I don't care who you are. It is just unfathomably what? And there's the part of me that I know it doesn't work for the story thematically, but it's like, go with him.
Yeah,
absolutely. Why? Absolutely, dance with him. Why are you running away? Why are you running away, Sarah?
I think I was like, why at that point? For that point, the Beauty and the Beast bit, I'm like, why are you running away? The rest of the story does say why, but at that point, you're like,
but at that point, it's like, look at him. For one thing, just look at him. He's amazing. But it's also, I mean, I love the way that he embodies so much that's contradictory within Sarah as well. He is her sexual awakening, but he's also her fear of that factor of herself and of men in general, So he's simultaneously seductive and threatening. He's antagonistic and sagactic. He's the guide, but also the enemy. at
But
the same time.
it's
But
an
isn't that? Oh, sorry, go on, Rob.
No, I was just saying it's interesting play at the end because he is an untrustworthy figure, and yet
Yeah.
there's something in the final line. I can't quote it perfectly, but it's something like, "If you agree to be with me, I will be your slave."
I will be your slave. Yeah.
And it just puts an extra color onto the whole thing.
It really does. He says to her in that same sequence, he says to her, "You cowered from me, and I was frightening. I indulged you, and I'm exhausted from living up to your expectations."
Yeah.
Like, he is imagination. That's what he
Yeah.
is. He is the internal. He is the ability to work through one's own emotions and one's confusions via imagination, made manifest and given like motive force. And it's very hard to tell in the film. It's very ambiguous to what degree he is helping her through this.
When we do Labyrinth, you're definitely the guest, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we reach
Absolutely.
Labyrinth on this
Absolutely.
podcast journey, you are definitely on it. Because this is one of the things that because one of the reason that I did it, as I said, was like, it'd be lovely to do a podcast with Vic, and she's got this idea that she can't come.
Kind of you wanting to do that, yeah.
But it was also like, well, we need something. We need something to as a lens.
A hook that I would accept.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we have a certain crossover in the things that we're both interested in. We have an awful lot that we are interested in separately, and I thought I need something which is open enough, whereby it allows a huge amount of rabbit holes to travel down. I thought, well, Bowie's
rabbit holes are a massive back catalogue as well.
Because not only because of the stuff he did, but where it leads. Because you know that if you talk about Bowie, you don't only have to talk about the songs or about Labyrinth or whatever. You know, because of the way he wore his influences on his sleeve. In fact, actually wanted to encourage curiosity. You will inevitably be able to not just talk about the songs, the films, blah blah. You can talk about kabuki theatre for an episode.
Yes,
you could talk about Brecht. You could talk about
he's
William
like a
Burroughs
hub
or George
that
Orwell.
you can go off in so many directions.
Well, he was the internet before the internet. I mean, he was basically a search engine, and there's an awful lot of things that certainly as a teenager on discovering Bowie that then
you could quickly follow those connections they'd already been made.
Suddenly, it was like you're 16 years of age going, well, what's German Expressionism? And and who's Kurt Weill? And what's Velvet Underground? And, and on it goes. So it was one of the other, to borrow Vicky's word, one of the other hooks was, I need something that's really open, that becomes a platform on which we can jump into all sorts of conversation. As long as we come back to David Bowie, as long as he's a sort of thread, then we've really got options to go here, there, and everywhere. And the final thing that fell into place was it really occurred to me that 10 years on from that awful Grim Reaper cull where we lost so many iconic people in 2016.
10 years.
Very interesting.
I can't believe that 10 years ago. Cannot believe it.
But a very interesting phenomenon seemed to emerge, which was great though many of the people were that we lost and their impact on popular culture, they have been sort of allowed to rest. The curious thing about David Bowie is the status has not gone. If anything, it's increasing, and that's particularly strange when you consider, for example, I was reading about this in terms of America, because he died in the same year as Prince, and Prince was a massive star, hugely influential, and he was particularly big on his home turf in the States. He outsold Bowie in terms of albums, like considerably, and yet Bowie is still very visible and audible, even in America, over and above Prince at the moment.
Yes, the cultural footprint is...
He's been the one that's not been allowed to die in a way.
When 2016 initially happened, just after both of them had gone, they were being talked about in relatively equal terms, weren't they? But that's what's changed.
That's right.
Yeah.
The conversation has just gone on with
Mm.
regards to Bowie. I mean, Bowie has had this very strange thing happen where he's become oddly mythologized.
Yes.
Very
and
fast as well.
very quickly, right?
It's not
And
been long.
that's as a result of it's the same reason why we look at 2016 and think, oh my god, it wasn't 10 years ago, was it? It's because it's just been a roller coaster since then, hasn't it? You know, on a
Oh, good
whole
grief.
host of levels. So like politically, so much has
Many.
happened since then.
Yeah.
And people have latched on to Bowie, interestingly, as this artifact. I mean, there's a meme floating around at the moment, almost like an internet myth that Bowie was like this existential linchpin that was holding reality together.
Yeah, and it's all gone to...
yes, since Bowie died, it's all gone to hell, right?
You might have a point.
Actually, I mean,
causation, correlation, not sure.
Yeah, I've been trying to write a story ever since he died about that very fact, about a guy who believes that Bowie was this bizarre existential linchpin holding reality together.
But if you listen to Black Star, I mean, he is basically a magician on that album. So you could believe it. It's the death of a magician.
Absolutely.
Someone who is chanting not only in occult references, but then in a language that might be Polari, might be Nasdaq, might be something else. You know, it's the death of a magician, and all the video and everything. And it's like, also, he was holding the fabric of everything together.
Yeah, and he's no longer looking after it and caring for it, and it's all
falling apart. It's all unraveling, right? I can see why you would believe that. I mean, with regards to Black Star and the stuff that he produced posthumously, I mean, just by the fact of it being posthumous, that makes him a kind of necromancer, doesn't it? An auto-necromancer, you know? He's you know, his own ghost echoing throughout time, and it's so weird in and of itself, but beyond any kind of delusion or story or narrative you might want to apply to it.
And he was setting himself up to do that. When you watch the videos, I mean, he did a song called Lazarus when he knew how it was all going to pan out. Yeah, I mean, totally with you on that, George.
Black Star is the one I cannot get over because first of all, I think it's one of the best things he ever did. I think it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, me too.
But it's the fact that he did it. It's the fact that he died making art.
Knowing that's his last message out himself. Yeah.
The chilling thing of the lyric, and when you consider it would have been written weeks, if not months before, and there's a lyric on one of the songs which is, "Where the fuck did Monday go?" And he died on Sunday.
Yeah,
and it's like, whoa.
Yeah,
you know, I go full Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter on that. It's like, whoa, man.
Yeah, right. It raises the hackles a little bit, doesn't it? It makes you think, oh my god, there's a pattern. Oh, there's something, right?
I was listening to an interview with the co-producer on that album, Tony Visconti, who he had worked with on so many famous records.
Oh, didn't he also do the one we've been talking about, Visconti?
What were we talking about?
Oh, our actual season 1.
Oh, yes, he did. Yes, he did the 1969 album. He did Young Americans, Low, Scary Monsters. The next.
We did loads.
Oh my god! So he was quite consistent throughout.
He's a big character in the Bowie universe, and I saw an interview with Visconti quite recently where he said, you know, at the time, he would ring me and say, I've got another album planned, Tony. And said, and at the time I thought, he's so sure he's going to beat this. He said, now as the years have settled, I realized he wanted me to feel better. He knew Black Star was his last album.
My God.
But he was going around saying, oh yeah, I've got another one, Tony. Don't worry. We'll be back in the studio. I've got this specialist that I've met just outside of New York. He's going to get this cancer out of me. It's going to be no problem. He said, and at the time I was upset because I thought, oh, he believed that. I said, and then it was a few days later. I thought, no, he didn't.
It was to help his interaction with those that didn't have the same sentence over them. Yeah,
exactly.
It's a very difficult conversation to have between beings who've got very different lifespans ahead.
Yes, and the thing is, I know there is a theory that you could pretty much place many David Bowie albums as the album that he might have died on. Heathen, for instance. Or his last song could have been Bring Me the Disco King from 2003 because there was a long gap up. But I think even then, Black Star is on a very, very different level. Black Star is definitely someone aware of their mortality, and they know they're rushing before the dying of the light.
Yes, absolutely. Morbidity and macabreness just seethe from it.
There are people out there who think no, that he would have gone on. He would have. I think that personally, I think he knew that was his last.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
There's a last tolling of the bell quality to the whole album.
Yes,
Absolutely,
it comes across. Yeah, quite clearly.
Hard to listen to. I mean, it is. I do think it's one of his best pieces of work, but I haven't listened to it for a very long time.
And yet, strangely, again, it's sort of full of jokes as well,
Yeah,
and
it's
full
very
of
funny. Yeah, it's very funny.
I love the pun where he in Lazarus, which you mentioned,
the cell phone
phone, or is it? Yeah, I dropped my cell phone down below, or I dropped myself on down below.
On down below, yes.
My physical being, my mortal being. It's deliberately punning. It's deliberately.
Yes, I remember coming across that lyric and watching the music video to Lazarus, and I couldn't pass what he was saying. I couldn't get it. I couldn't, and then I realized listening to it again and again. Oh, it's deliberately that way.
Yeah,
he's doing it deliberately.
And how sort of you really do peek into, because there's a sort of serenity around. There's a song on there called Dollar Days where he's, if I never see the English evergreens I'm running to, it's nothing to me. It's a sort of acceptance.
But that serenity is what makes it feel so final.
But then you juxtapose it with the song Sue, where he's positively vengeful. He is vengeful about this diagnosis, that he basically casts it as a person he murders, a woman he murders. Sue, I've got the X-ray, and that one's really visceral. And in 'Tis a Pity She Was a Whore, where he's basically, it seems, or it can be read, that he's casting the whole thing as like a terrible battlefield.
Yeah. So he's effectively working through every stage and emotion that you can go through.
And quite often it is pitched as a, which I personally, I really don't agree with this, but it's quite often pitched as a battle, isn't it?
Yes,
that's
but I have a massive problem with that.
I think his song is a reaction against that label, because it is not, as you say, it is not a battle, it's a massacre. Because it's also the idea that, if you lose at the battle, you're a failure. It's a disease, for Christ's sake.
Of course, the whole framing, the framing of it as a battle suggests that you have a chance, that it's something.
But I think there's an awareness of that,
and that you've got a choice.
Yes,
It's like, really?
It's basically medieval, isn't it? It's basically medieval. If you fail here, then it's a moral failing. It's a spiritual failing.
Yes,
which is
and you don't deserve.
The reason you failed is because you deserve to fail. You deserve to be consumed by this thing. Hideous language. Hideous.
It is, and I think there's a certain awareness of that in the song. I think it is, in its way, railing against that framing, satirizing it in a way, because it is a quote unquote history song. I mean, it is referencing Jacobean revenge tragedy, and
of course it is.
And there's that wonderful line in it, isn't it? Where he says, "Oh crumbs." It's almost like it like deflates the thing, rather, like we were saying, because that was merely patrol. We were merely on patrol. It wasn't a real fight. It's just patrol. I think. Whoa.
It's just the fact that you can have these conversations about Bowie's songs, songs which, by and large, were in the popular sphere. They're in the mainstream.
Well, people can hum them over the years, and there's so much more to them.
I said this to Vic only recently, because obviously we've been banking these up, and I said, it's a strange thing. I said, because obviously I've been a fan since I was 16, since this first listening of Outside. Now, I didn't jump off into anything else immediately. I basically fed on Outside for about a year. I didn't go in search of anything else. Outside satiated me in a big way, because there was so much to explore. And then it was later that I started to get into the rest of his catalogue. But I said to Vicky, I think a couple of days ago, we were walking our dog, I said, one of the things, even though I'm very, very familiar with his material now, I've got pretty wide taste in music. I think it's because I don't have any taste, and therefore I sort of assimilate anything. I said, but
You're
the thing is,
eclectic.
yeah, well, that's the nice way
Yeah.
of putting it. But when I come back to David Bowie, I said, even like artists who have a similar standing or also big bodies of work, who I really, really love. I mean, that can be anyone from a Dylan to a Neil Young to. So when I come back to David Bowie's music, it still seems that there's some other fuel in there. That there's something.
Yes,
That,
you were
that
saying that.
it doesn't feel. It still doesn't feel of this earth, and I don't mean that in the sort of rather obvious, superficial. Oh, he's an alien. Look, no, I don't mean. But there's an ingredient, in there which is really hard to, and it's probably what will make me continue to come back for the rest of my life.
There's a secret recipe wrapped up, isn't there? You know, secret blend of herbs and spices.
There's an X factor to his work,
Yeah.
isn't there? It's hard to describe. It's hard to
There
describe
is
what
something
it is.
extra.
But I think,
I
you are right.
Dylan. I adore the music of Dylan, and Dylan has created universes and characters and scenarios. But Dylan's work always feels mortal. It feels of the earth.
Very much so.
It feels like something that's been created by a person. And there's something about David Bowie's music which
he very early, I can say this because we've looked at some of the early stuff, took off and left the earth behind him quite soon on. He didn't hang around.
No, absolutely the case.
There is
when you
transcendent in it.
When you described him as analogous to Lynch, I think that's absolutely correct. I mean, Lynch is of a similar vein in film, right? He makes films like someone from some other reality, from some other dimension, which is tangentially related to ours. So it has significance.
Yeah.
It has significance, but it's so strange. It's so out
Yeah,
there.
they both do it, but at the same time by massively quoting from stuff that's familiar. So Lynch will quote from soap opera, 1950s aesthetic, Heartland's America.
And then twist it through a lens, a turning, a reflection, a refraction.
Yeah. And Bowie does the same. You'll go, oh well, this is a sort of, what have I got here? Well, let's put on Young Americans. Oh well, it's kind of Philadelphia soul, except it fucking well isn't. And then you're into this, or you put on, something like Aladdin Sane, where at the start you think, oh, this is a glam rock album. But why is there a glam rock album with that strange kind of tumbling avant-garde piano, and what's all that going on in the background, and why is it a salsa rhythm on this rock song rather than
I actually consulted a friend of mine, Ray, who is he's an ex of mine actually, but we're really good friends, and he is a musician and a singer and a songwriter, a musical director. Music is his life basically. So Bowie is very significant to him.
Wow,
and I consulted him about Bowie. I just asked him generally, like for thoughts and for observations, and he was talking about. I mean, it's technical language that I don't really understand because I don't have that particular ability or understanding. But he was talking about how Bowie very consciously, throughout his career, was attempting to almost do the opposite of what was popular. He was looking at pop, like trends, like technical trends in pop music, and then deliberately doing the opposite in terms of his compositions, his writing, and even the way he was playing instruments, the way he was singing. There's
it is really different.
It's a conscious contrariness to his work, and it's not in some edgy way. It's not in some I'm just going to do the opposite because I want to be trendy or anything like that. It's because he's deliberately exploring ideas through it. He wants to be distinct. He wants his work to say something different. Well, for one thing, he wants his work to actually say something. It's not all doo-wah-wah love songs or anything like that. His music has profound significance. He tells stories through his music.
And without getting like sort of overtly Freudian about it, there's something about, he would say, or I heard him once say, that there is something about an early experience, because the first 3 songs he really kind of remembered in his youth all did peculiar things in terms of their musicality. So one was Danny Kaye's Inchworm, which stayed with him for a very long time, because I think, Ashes to Ashes is basically Inchworm. And another was Tubby the Tuba, and the other one was Oh, by the Wings of a Dove. Because they do odd things, because they did odd things in terms of their chord structures and their harmonizing and I was very, very young when I heard them, and therefore was kind of startled and a bit weirded out and attracted to them. It sort of seeped into the DNA quite early on. It's like, well,
Had a long time to ruminate in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then, of course, you get to something like Life on Mars, and Rick Wakeman, who is this classically trained piano player, you know, playing obviously Bowie composed it on a piano, but Rick Wakeman, being a technically proficient piano player, would start. Is it, David? What's this chord? Oh yeah, I want to go there. And Rick Wakeman, having all this training, and
had to unlearn, right?
This is extraordinary. This is amazing. You shouldn't be
I love that.
going
Yeah.
there.
Isn't it amazing?
But I love it.
This is what Ray had to say. He actively eschewed reference to the blues and blues scales which modern pop and rock are built on. He wanted a different touchstone. He used a lot of harmonies that sound traditional discordant, such as the tritone or augmented fourth, which is a blue note, but blues glances it, where Bowie leans on it, giving it its full demonic resonance. Incidentally, that interval, the tritone, was banned by the church in, I think, the 18th century, actually because they thought it demonic.
Brilliant.
How
I'm only
brilliant is
just
that?
starting to learn about music. I'm not a musician at all. I'm
No,
miles
nor me.
from it, but I am trying to make myself learn, and so I did understand a few bits of that of the message. And yes, from what I've learned so far, there's just, and I keep asking questions, and my teacher just says, I don't normally get questions like this, Vic, and I don't know the answer.
Yeah,
Like, why? Why is that? And I'm finding out there is just standard ways that things are done.
Yeah.
And then hearing that, and I'm like, oh, of course. So Bowie's going to have known that and gone, nah, I'm going to do it this way.
I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to lean into the chord that people just
that makes total sense to me now.
But it's both knowing it and not knowing it, because the other thing was an immense naivety.
Being held to it.
He didn't actually always know. And it's the other thing, the other through line in his work, I think, is that when you listen back to these albums, unless it's, even what might seem like a big production, so you get to Let's Dance, and it's like, well, this is going to be the big commercial hit. But actually, it even stands for Let's Dance. Most of his albums are quite small, cheap affairs, and they're quite DIY.
Yes,
He's almost proto-punk through a lot of his earlier stuff, in the sense that many of his contemporaries, many of his peers, had the extra sheen. They had the bigger orchestra for the strings. They had this, they had that, and he didn't have it. But you do have this kind of unusual crackle, but part of it comes out of naivety. And this sort of DIY aesthetic.
Yeah, and it's abandon, right? It's almost like childlike abandon, where he just goes for it. His voice is
it's
like
what
that,
he's got accessible to him.
Absolutely. Early on, when he is doing this DIY stuff, when he's doing Hunky Dory and that kind of thing, he does things with his voice that are just non-standard. Like, if he'd gone to a traditional singing coach, they'd have said, "Don't do that. Stop it. That's not how you do it." Right?
I can quite see that.
Yeah, you listen to the way he sings on Life on Mars when he
tried to train him out of it.
Yeah. Right. So he is the kind of singer and creator who, if he'd come about in the late 1990s, early 2000s, when everything was being predominated by the homogeneity of Pop Idol and all of that garbage, he wouldn't have got anywhere.
Was that when that was?
There would have been no space for him. There just wouldn't have been any space for him whatsoever. He would have been rejected because he does not toe that line. He doesn't conform in that way.
And in a sense, and one of the problems that has often been, because here we are talking very positively about his sort of compositional techniques and something, but he also gets a kind of short shrift as well sometimes by comparison or contrast with some of the other greats. Now, where was I going with this? My brain is. I'm having a middle age moment.
Yeah.
I'm having a middle age moment. But that was it. But and one of them, certainly in terms of his voice, is because he, rather than sort of perfect his voice and present a voice, he chose a voice for every song. Now, not necessarily literally a character, such as a Ziggy Stardust or a Major Tom, but we were talking about this on one of the podcasts. I said, he went and recorded a song. The co-producer was like, "Oh, great, that's a fantastic take. All the notes have been hit, lovely." And he came out and he was looking a little bit depressed about it. And he said, "What's wrong, David? That was great. Everything that we needed to hit was hit." He said, "No, I've sung it too well." And the character in the song, it wasn't an overt character, as I say. It wasn't
It was just a voice, right? Just like a narrative voice, yeah.
Yeah, he was like, his life's not going that well. So he said, so the co-producer said he went back in and sung it ever so slightly flat, which actually is a big no-no. And all the way through the take, I was like, "Oh God, he's really off key. It's not right." We played it back through, and of course, it was perfect because
that's how it was meant to be, right?
Isn't that what? Yeah, like Adam Buxton picks up when he does his Bowie impressions on that side of him. Yeah,
Tennant of the Pet Shop Boys fame very famously said, when they remixed "Hello Space Boy" from the Outside album, so we could have a bit of radio play, he came down to re-record the vocal, and he said it was his song. He said, but he very much let Chris Lowe and I just run the show. He went, "So Neil, which voice do you want?" And I just
I have a catalogue here for you to select.
Could we have the Cockney voice, David? And he said, "Spice Boy, you're sleeping." Yeah, okay, I'll do this like Anthony Newley Cockney voice then, if you want. Oh, great, yeah. But then sometimes you'd get the sort of plaintive life. I mean, I always find it extraordinary if you actually listen to the albums in order. You get this quite sort of high, plaintive, young, naive voice on things like Life on Mars, etc. Then you get suddenly to 1974 Diamond Dogs, and the vocal expansion is startling. It's 6 months between that and the previous album. There's things he's doing with his voice. It's like, what's this?
Who is this? Where was this? Where did it come from?
Is this still David Bowie? Yeah, okay, it is. Yeah, it's just his next album.
Yeah,
it's amazing, isn't it? When you, I always find that people struggle to cover Bowie because he is so idiosyncratic. Nobody really sings like him.
He has a very distinctive fingerprint or voice print, I guess you'd say.
I think one of the few people who's ever nailed a cover by Bowie nailed the cover because they themselves were an eccentric vocalist and they didn't try and imitate him, and that was Billy Mackenzie of the Associates. They did a cover of Boys Keep Swinging. Billy Mackenzie was a wonderful, wonderful singer. The Associates were a great band from the early 80s. They had a very famous hit called Party Fears 2, but I got my first encounter with Billy Mackenzie was again late 90s. There was a band called Apollo 440, and the track on their album, this just absolutely gorgeous ballad, which Billy Mackenzie did, I think, only maybe a few months before he took his own life, sadly. But quite the most amazing vocal performance. But that's one of the very few Bowie covers that absolutely works. The Associates cover of Boys Keep Swinging.
Yeah, because it's just so difficult to do.
It's very, very difficult to do. Yeah, all the Philip Glass covers because they're completely.
I remember getting those.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's part of the trick, isn't it? If you're going to do one of the Bowie tracks, you've got to kind of make it your own. You've got to be as wild and inventive.
You've got to be strong with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to emulate him is a mistake.
And it's interesting because covers were a big thing for him. I mean, although he's got a
he did
huge amount of original compositions. Again, it's coming back to this thing we were saying earlier about like the search engine thing. He was very keen to cover people, and when asked, he would just say, "Well, I'm a fan.
Yeah,
I love listening to music, and I love." It's so for someone who was difficult to cover or is difficult to cover. He actually himself did an awful
Did
lot
quite a
of
few, yeah. I do love seeing him interviewed, actually, because he's not only remarkably intelligent, clearly, and articulate, but also he can get a little bit pissy sometimes when he's, when journalists and interviewers are just playing the game and they're just giving, they're trying to bait him or something, or they're asking an impertinent question.
You can't blame him. You're like, fair,
He's just
fair.
like,
Go for it.
what a stupid question, Why are you asking that? Why are you asking me that? It's absurd.
I rarely think he lets that much of himself out there when you do see interviews of him.
Yeah, I do like it. I like it a lot. My God. And just, I mean, all joking aside, he is, I do believe, part of my own awakening, in terms of my queerness, my gayness,
Well, I would say actually very similar for my own
I think for a
sexuality as
lot
well.
of people, to
Although
be
I think
honest.
that I think in a way David Bowie made me feel that I was kind of easily led, really, because I will say, I blame David Bowie and a couple of other people for spending most of my 20s smoking, because I thought he looked so damn cool with a cigarette.
Yeah, the thing is, he did. That's the thing. He always looked cool. He's just one of those guys. He's one of those people. Very like Mads Mikkelsen.
Several
right?
haircuts.
It doesn't matter where you put them, or what they're wearing, or what circumstances they're in. They always look goddamn cool.
Yeah.
Some people are like that, and it's hideous. It's annoying.
But then again, it's always the chicken or egg thing, because the other part of that equation is the reason I gravitated towards Bowie was because a lot of those things are already floating around or within me. So inevitably you find someone who maybe has articulated it because they are working in an art form. They're older than you, and therefore they've worked through more of their life. But I also remember being a teenager and thinking, knowing I was a Gen X teenager, and therefore I had my Gen X heroes, whether they were PJ Harvey or Trent Reznor or whatever. But there was something very alluring about having a much older hero figure that not everyone necessarily knew. Because at that point in the 90s, Bowie was not the cultural icon he is or had been. He was
referenced that earlier, like
hinterland.
Let's Dance and Labyrinth.
He was known by a cult of young people, and obviously the people who'd listened to him first time round, who were much older, but an awful lot of people just didn't know who he was.
No, there was definitely a dip, wasn't there? There was definitely a dip there in the early 90s.
Getting a lot of really, really bad flack from the British music press, because they had I always make my theory is, whereas other artists from David Bowie's generation ran into difficulties, certainly in the 1980s, whether it was
didn't cross over all of them,
whether it was a Neil Young, or whether it was an Elton John, or whoever it had to be, a Paul McCartney, whatever it happened to be. There was
decade had Velcro on them.
Whether there seemed to be more of an acceptance that their light had dimmed, whereas I think a lot of the British music press, a lot of the British music critics in the 90s were incensed by Bowie's perceived failure.
Real vitriol.
There's angry with him really
because they had
how very dare you for doing this.
And I think it's because they had adored him so much. He had shaped so much of their younger years.
Yes.
And he had sidestepped punk. He was one of the very few people who didn't get crushed by punk. He came out the other side of that, still considered to be someone important and someone cool. But then he suddenly wasn't, and then he had a run of mistakes or misjudgments, or things weren't quite working out, and they really hammered him in a way that they did not hammer his contemporaries who had also had a bad time. It was like it was an affront to them that he had done some bad stuff.
It's almost like an early echo of internet fan entitlement, isn't it?
Oh, totally. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Very much so.
Because I'm thinking about the 90s stuff, like they're kind of coming back for his 50th birthday and things.
Yeah,
so that's
and
a little bit later than that. Yeah,
it really was Glastonbury 2000 where he was sort of welcomed home. You know, he
Yeah.
was he was the
Allowed back into the fold.
Yeah. I say, oh no, we do. You are
Well,
important.
actually,
You are.
Yeah.
You know.
It's about that time he started to speak to another audience as well, isn't it?
I was
Like
just going to say,
younger people started to rediscover him
he
at
was
that
covering
point.
him at that point, you know,
Yeah.
Mm.
compared
it's
to
because of
because you were referring to the 80s, you know, that is 20 odd years. Like,
yeah.
who was covering would have changed and moved on.
Yeah,
True.
and there was a lot of stuff that was happening culturally around then as well. I mean, there was this turn towards nostalgia. So you had TV shows, things like Life on Mars, right, and Ashes to Ashes.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Which
Yeah.
again, another resurgence for him.
Although interestingly, I think he himself had an interesting tension around nostalgia.
Definitely, he sings about it. I mean, it's in a lot of his songs, and it is really complex the way he regards nostalgia, because it's sweet and sour. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I mean, I
something
know again,
that's
comes back to that interview I recently heard with Tony Visconti. He said when we were doing Black Star, of course, there would be whole days when his treatment would overrun. And I'd already been booked. So I had this idea of going back to an album we made in 1979 called Lodger. Very, very good album, he said, but an album we were both slightly disappointed with because when it came to the mixing stage, we didn't get the right studio. The studio didn't have the things we needed. So we were always a bit disappointed with the final mix on that album. So I went back to the original masters and started working on it. And I said to David one day, I've been looking at Lodger. He went, oh, right, okay. Why? He said, well, we were always disappointed that it didn't get quite the mix on it that we loved. He said, and David was like completely perplexed, but it was over as far as he was concerned. It was 1979. It was gone.
yeah,
We're
it's
going
done,
back.
yeah.
Yeah.
He said, then I put on the first track. I said, well, just have a listen. He said, oh, it's wonderful. Oh, yeah.
Oh really?
It's really
When he
great.
was actually presented with it, yeah.
Yeah, it's really great what you've done with it, Tony. Well, give me a moment. I'm going to ring my management and we'll put it out. He said, but for the first 10 minutes, it was, I don't know why you're doing this. Let's not go back there. And yet then suddenly it was okay. But he said he did a similar thing to Tony Visconti and Woody Woodmansey, who was Bowie's drummer, and there's the Spiders from Mars days and a few others. They went on the road for a couple of years doing a live show based around the Man Who Sold the World album.
Right.
And with a guest singer. And Tony Visconti would call Bowie and say, oh, I'm doing this. And it was the same thing. He said, Tony, why are you doing The Man Who Sold the World? He said, well, if you remember, David, you didn't tour it. You just went right into Hunky Dory and put a line under Man Who Sold the World. You didn't take it out. Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And he said, I thought it was a really great album that kind of got overlooked.
So he's always moving forward. He doesn't have a tendency. He himself closes the gates behind him as he just progresses forward. It's other people like, do you want to come back for a moment?
This seems to be the case, right? He has this magpie quality, doesn't he? Of a true artist, a true storyteller.
Is the fact that there was a point, say, for example, in the 90s, where he was very much pushing ahead in his own way. And I think the realization, and maybe where some of this tension comes with nostalgia, how to deal with nostalgia, which I think is something that pretty much characterizes the third act, if you like, of Bowie, is because I think they probably hit a point around about 1997 with the album Earthling, which is an album I love. I've got a real affection for Earthling.
Oh, I love Earthling.
I mean, the stuff that's not as well regarded in the 1990s, I generally really quite like.
Yes, I mean,
I have a soft spot for it.
But of course, with Earthling falls into that interesting place where you've got a star who is part of the Boomer generation. He's a Boomer generation icon. Yeah. And no one in the Boomer generation, anyone in the Boomer generation is going to be, well, they're not going to be listening to industrial and drum and bass.
Right.
They weren't in the clubs like we were.
And then, of course, you've got Generation X, who are like, why is this boomer doing this? We've got the Prodigy,
Right.
thanks very much. We've got Nine Inch Nails.
We've got what Bowie gave birth to, right? We've got what Bowie influenced
we're doing all right,
and
thanks.
More sons
inspired.
and daughters, basically, yeah. Now, there were a few of us, myself, a few other people I know, heard Earthling and went, this is really cool, this is really great. But as I say, it was a cult. I think there did come a point where I think he thought, and it's just conjecture, okay, I can keep doing things because I'm genuinely passionate about them. And it's one of the things I always maintain. I do think that there's a tendency for people, certainly of late, for Bowie to be, well, there's a little too much Bowie idolatry for my taste.
Yes,
I think we have to acknowledge the fact that it wasn't all great. He was flawed, he was human. But I think the thing with Earthling is I think the cynics said, "Oh well, he's jumping on a bandwagon. He's stealing youth music." And I say, no, I think the
He
people
did his own thing with it.
I think he was genuinely enthusiastic.
This is
I think that's what comes
genuinely
across.
interested. Yeah, he was interested in what was happening. You know,
he actually liked the music.
I think there was a genuine, and in a sense, he wasn't really doing anything different on Earthling to what he'd done, say, on Young Americans or Low. He was fascinated by the music around him, plus the music from the past, and he wanted to make a kind of French stew out of it, with a lot of vaudeville and a lot of things that were very much him. But I do wonder if after Earthling there was a sense of, I've got to reconcile with my past because I will just have no audience. And I think that's probably why Glastonbury was such a shock, because I was there at Glastonbury and I sort of said to my mate,
I remember you warning him before you guys went, don't get your hopes up. Whatever you do, he will just do famous most recent stuff.
He played end to end famous songs, and then you had albums like Heathen, which I feel he reckoned, because Heathen's a wonderful album in and of itself, but you get those echoes of Low, of Heroes, of Life on Mars, and it's like I think at that point, and it goes right the way through to The Next Day, where he's sort of trying to say, I'm still doing my own thing, I'm still wildly fascinated by this and the other, but I've got to somewhat package it up in a way where people recognize me, because I think there is an argument that on Earthling, an album that I love, but that Bowie is almost lost in that music.
Yeah, it's the problem with being as chameleonic as he was, right?
Exactly.
There's so much work spanning so many different decades and traditions of music, new and old, that it's difficult to draw continuity. You will often you'll sometimes come to a Bowie album and it won't be your thing. It will just be a style of music that you don't connect with.
Absolutely. And then you get the things that I think probably where this is why I think Black Star is such a fantastic sort of final stamp on the Bowie universe, because when I heard The Next Day, and I think we're going to have our mutual friend Kit Power on to do The Next Day.
Brilliant.
He's quite a fan of the album. Now, The Next Day is an album I really like. I think it's got some wonderful things on it. But I also remember coming to the end of it thinking, well, I've been into your music now since I was 16, and this has got some really great songs on here, but I don't foresee a time where I will prioritize listening to this album over, say, Heroes or Scary Monsters, which it's kind of riffing on.
Yeah,
because he had to make that comeback. Because he had to make that comeback after a decade off, didn't he? And so he almost had to say, "It's me. You remember me?"
Hey guys, I'm still here.
So I think The Next Day is a great jukebox for people who aren't fans.
Right.
It's a lovely kind of taster of everything.
Almost like an entry, an entry point.
Yeah, or a millennial.
There are still some tracks on there, though, I would pull out, though. It's an album, I agree.
I think there's some fantastic songs on there. But
I would make a beeline for listening to them. I would I want that track from next, but not necessarily the album.
But the fact is, I've been involved in the story for so many decades, my tendency will be, well, you know what? If someone lines up The Next Day, Heroes and Scary Monsters, The Next Day is going to come last, not because it's the least in terms of quality, it's just the other two got there first.
They got there first.
It's that simple. So I think there's an interesting tension around nostalgia with him in his later. It's something that he rails against and also knows he kind of has to embrace.
Yeah, it's something he definitely wrestles with.
No audience.
Yeah, he wrestles with it through the work, doesn't he?
Yeah,
works
because he almost successfully got rid of every audience at one point. I mean, either through doing things like, absolutely confusing people by saying, well, I'm in a band now. What?
Oh, yeah.
Tin Machine, and it's going to be a very noisy band, and we're not.
And I'm going to take a back seat and not be. Yeah.
Or he was going to do something like Outside, which is just mind blowing to anyone tuning into that at the time. It's like you part of you think, well, who's this for? It's not for his old fan.
Yeah, I mean, there are parts of Outside where you would struggle to identify that it's Bowie.
No. It's as I say, it's like maybe he'll find, and he did. He found Outside was another one of those albums which sort of found a cult, but cults by their very definition aren't very big.
No, and are exclusive, right? They're kind of exclusive by their very nature.
Small subgroup. Yeah.
It is the nature of his work, though, isn't it? This is what he does. They're these little isolated experiments which almost are deliberately exclusive. They are going to appeal to a very particular subset, and they're not always the same demographic from experiment to experiment.
Having once I'd got over the Bowie having invaded my life the way he did.
All right.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I've got over it. Well, I must have got over it now. But it was Outside into Earthling where I sat, where I was introduced and went, no, this is the great stuff. So it's kind of interesting that this is like this small subgroup. It's like, that's my early happy place with Bowie. Going, this stuff is great.
Our frames of reference are so different. How could we? I mean, although I can listen to something like Hunky Dory and Ziggy Stardust and appreciate it, I've got to activate a certain context because I have no experience of those being out at the time. I can only view them through the lens of hearing them first around about 1998. Whereas Outside and Earthling, they were bang on our time.
You lived, because I always find this quite interesting. He had such a massive catalogue. I always ask Rob how when he heard albums, when he went back to them, but there comes a point for both of us actually where Bowie was releasing stuff live and we were fans and getting it. For me, it was a lot later than you, Rob. But
well, you either had to dodge it. And
I did dodge it. Well, hours
or embrace it.
Still hours. But I was thinking about this earlier when we started off talking about Black Star, because the album's released. You were such a fan that we listened to it before he did die.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
So it's actually quite interesting to have lived through that. It didn't last for very long. I mean, we're talking like days before it was released.
Yeah, it was.
Sorry. Yeah, but we definitely listened to the whole album, liked it, enjoyed it, going, yeah, this is great. We played it a few times, and then the news came through that he had died, and we did transition with that news. It did really change it.
I listened to it on the day that he died.
Really?
After, it was almost like a farewell. It had to be done. And
I did so damn well as well, because Vicky came in on the Monday.
When the news, it broke early morning. I think it was like Radio 4, and I was like, I'm going to have to tell him.
You actually woke me, and I remember my initial reaction was, because Black Star was only 2 days old, and we'd only just heard
Didn't think it was long. Was it 2 days? God.
My initial reaction was, no, that's impossible, because... and I do remember that I did quite well throughout the day, and I remember... It was 6 o'clock in the evening, and I decided I'm just going to have a shower, and I absolutely broke down.
Yeah,
and I couldn't understand why I was absolutely weeping and I thought, well, hey, what's going on here? This is not a family member. This is not like when I lost my best friend, or or when I lost my dog Tippy when I was like really. But it, and I didn't know David Jones. Of course, I didn't. But it was you suddenly realize how much an individual can sum up huge portions of your life simply by their work, their art, and as you said, George, kind of always being there.
This
And-
is it. The ambience. It's something fundamental. It's like saying that gravity has died.
Yeah.
Or the mountains
So
have died.
so intrinsic to your life.
I
Yeah.
definitely felt as well that and it sounds very sentimental and everything, but I definitely felt like I sort of lost a mentor, like a teacher, because not only in the superficial sense, like I got a couple of really great haircuts out of being a David Bowie fan, and some really good some really
And some good
sets of
jackets.
clothes.
Yeah.
But also. Whether I would have eventually got into contact with various of these things, but I know that Bowie had led me to the Velvet Underground. He'd led me to Scott Walker, so that's just music covered. He'd led me to the art of Rottluff and Kirchner. He'd led me to Stanley Kubrick. There was an awful lot of the books of William Burroughs, J.G. Ballard. There was an awful lot of stuff that he opened the doors and windows. So why don't you take a look at this kid?
Yeah.
And obviously he didn't know me, and I didn't know him on a personal level, but it's slightly different to your average pop star. This was someone who was, pointing. I'd say it was like a search engine before such a thing existed.
Well,
but I always remember I remember when he turned 50. I was still a teenager, and there was a big brouhaha around his 50th birthday, the year Earthling came out. And I remembered thinking, there's going to be a portion of your life when he will be gone.
Did you actually think that then?
Yes, I remember very specifically thinking that, because 50 seemed like a big deal.
Oh,
yeah.
Horrifyingly now, it seems so old.
Because it's very close. He looked great.
We're all
that was the other
there,
thing. It was also
So
the promise that you could look great at 50. So it was like exciting.
Yeah, that too, actually.
And you could still be cool, right? You could still be something relevant and interesting, creative,
and so it did
vital.
feel like a big thing went. And I always remember there was I forget the name of I always forget this guy's name, but he's a British poet, and he was very heavily involved with the Blitz Club in the early 80s and the New Romantic movement, and his name escapes me. But anyway, he was interviewed on the day of Bowie's death, and he was interviewed in I think the BBC, the BBC studio, and they
made a big deal out of it.
He couldn't get his words out. He broke down on camera.
Wow.
And you're thinking, this is it
was a moment. It really was. It was. I mean, celebrity deaths. It's like, even if you enjoy their work, generally, I'm not that affected by.
Yeah, you could put it into perspective and go.
You have a moment of, that's sad news.
That's sad. And, I liked their work, and that's it. But the day Bowie died, I was in bed most of the day listening to Black Star. It was just inconsolable, totally inconsolable, and I don't know why. Again, like you, Rob, I was trying to work out my own reaction. I was surprised. I was actually blindsided by how powerful the reaction was.
Yeah, and it particularly, in a sort of way, irked me, because although I like to think of myself as being an emotional person, I'm very itchy about sentiment. Cheap sentiment.
Yes.
And also about parasocial relationships.
And parasocial
I'm always
relationships.
very wary of that.
But it was like a wave crashed over me. It was like, well, I just can't. I've got no resilience. I was in the shower and I went, I'm going to start crying. I know I am. I've got this many hours into the day, and it's going. It's happen now.
I remember it as a physical thing, as a blow, almost. As just something that I couldn't recover from. And I was so glad that I actually had the day off that day, because I think it would have been very difficult to work. I think it would have been very, very, very difficult to work that day. And like you, I'm very wary of all this stuff. I'm because I've got a bugbear in my bonnet about sincerity.
Agreed.
I think most of the time when people are publicly reacting to the deaths of a royal or a celebrity or whatever, I think a lot of the time it's insincere. I think it's
it really,
I think it's cultish.
It has to be.
It's driven
and it
by
feeds
media.
on itself.
Exactly. I always think back to Diana, to the death of Princess Diana.
Yes, that's the one that came to mind.
Yeah, I was 14 years old when that happened, and I remember thinking to myself, the world has gone fucking insane. This is mental.
It did.
This is like, I
did.
don't believe any of you. I don't
No.
believe any of you. I don't believe you're feeling what you're saying you're feeling and what you're expressing. It's a kind of communal madness that's going on here. But I definitely felt something very real and very sincere in reaction to Bowie's death. As I did to Lynch, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet, I although David Lynch, isn't it strange because he probably wasn't that much older than Bowie in this scheme, but
no, I don't think he was. No,
I don't think so.
It felt like David Lynch had extra innings. Now I don't know why I felt like that, and I mean I think the circumstances of his death were still very tragic. The fact that this man who was now dependent on oxygen gets caught up in the smoke of the Hollywood fires, for God's sake.
Jesus.
But they both ended up sort of completing their work in a way, and yet I don't know, I feel slightly like Lynch had that the timing in a way was better for him. I know that's quite absurd, but because it's only a few years, whereas still with Bowie,
wasn't a lot between them.
Not a lot.
No.
I've just looked it up. Yeah.
Bowie got the
there's almost a sense that, I mean, maybe it's the rock star thing. There's, you know, the icon of the rock star in popular
I think
culture
there might be
is
some
ageless,
others
isn't
as
it?
well.
It's
I
always
think
ageless.
there's something about I mean, people are, there's something about even 69. Well, it's not quite 70. It's like when it comes to
Power of the number change.
the power of the number change. That if someone is ill, and of course our chances of fatal illness increase massively the older we get. If the figure of the person is in somewhere in their 70s upwards, there's a part of me which goes, okay, that's still tragic, because people can live for far longer, and there are even lucky people who can live for far longer in relatively good health. But 69 feels like it's 1 year, but it feels like a bit of a cheat.
It almost does, doesn't it? It's very strange. It's very peculiar because it isn't much, but yeah, I understand. I do understand. There's something almost raw about dying in your 60s, yeah?
Whereas Lynch was 78, made it that bit.
Oh, he was older than I thought.
Oh, yeah, so what I meant to say, so I didn't realise how close they were. So Lynch was born January 46, and Bow was born January 47. So sorry, that's what I meant when there wasn't much between them. They were born only a year apart. Whereas Bowie went 2016, and then it was January 25, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe so.
So it nearly got that 10 years.
I believe so. Wow. I think the only other sort of celebrity death I can think of that hit me even half as hard was Rick Mayall.
Yes, that was a big one for our
that was a big one.
Rick Mayall.
It was a bit of a shock.
It was.
At the accident, and how serious that was, and then reprieve, and then okay.
Yes, that's such a good shout, George, because again, Rick Mayall was one of those sort of totemic figures. Oh my God!
Always there, right? Always there. I mean, and also so prominent culturally, so powerfully prominent. I mean, growing up with the young ones and Bottom and Alan Bastard and Rimtails. Rimtails. Oh,
so many great things. But I mean, certainly for me, I mean the young ones, because I was still in single digits when the young ones on, and I
didn't see that, so I was quite a bit older. No,
I remember my cousin, who's 10 years my senior, he had them off-air recordings on VHS, and I used to watch them, and it was like a forward glimpse into sort of
this explains so much.
Youthful, and so therefore he was like, because you're so young, godlike, it's like because it was. I don't know whether I imagine it is greatly diluted now, but at the time, it still felt very, very dangerous as comedy, because I used to watch it with my cousin and sort of wide-eyed because
you compare it to the comedy of the time.
And they were visibly young as well. They did look so young.
That's the other thing, right? It's the fact that they were young people, and again, like as Vicky was saying, the comedy of the era was so conformist, and it was so conservative, and it was all
It really
these
was painfully
in-
so.
you
And then
know,
you had this.
And
Yeah.
they had
This.
bands on, and because the bands were like, they would have like The Damned and Motorhead,
Motorhead, right?
and so it was like,
I
this
always
is
associate the Ace of Spades
so
with watching the young
Yeah,
ones.
me too. Me
yeah,
too.
dangerous, you know. It's like it felt, and that was, it's a wonderful reason they even had bands. It was simply the producer wangled it because they were a half-hour comedy, and he
Yes.
said, if I put this in as an entertainment show, we'll get extra budget, but it does mean we have to have a musical interlude. And it was like, great, we'll
Brilliant.
have, and all the bands
It went
did.
better for him than Spike Milligan.
Yeah, it just cemented their punk credentials, or their
Yes.
post-punk credentials, because
with who they got
these
on.
cutting-edge bands on, you know,
Yeah.
these really great bands at the sort of height of their own like dangerous phases, you know.
It's also, I mean, it's very conscious of what it's doing as well, the young ones. I mean, there's episodes where it takes pot shots at things like The Good Life. Deliberately so.
Yes. Yes. We're just watching Bottom at the moment, but maybe we need to work
Oh,
backwards.
Bottom is
Yeah.
fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
Bottom, for me, Bottom is my favourite of what Rick and Aid ever did. It is my absolute favourite. But you're waiting for Godot with vomit and curse words.
And
you know?
custody pants.
And custody pants. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's Godot. It's like it's like Pinter plays.
It's
you know,
very
it's like
Thatcherite.
John
I mean, it's
Wayne.
very Thatcherite Britain, isn't it? You know, like down the wire, nobody's got any money, everyone's scavenging. Yeah, it's fantastic.
And also this reading of this character, Richard, who is, you know, he is at bottom. That's the joke, and yet he's such a Thatcherite. He's such a reactionary.
Richie,
Richie's
is such a great
racist.
Character.
He's misogynistic, and
at the heart of Richie, there's this vacuum. That's what I always get from it. He wants identity. He is desperate for some scrap of identity, but he doesn't have any of it. So you get all of these like allusions that he comes up with to things that are patently untrue, patently bullshit. I'm half Red Indian, you know. You're just like, what are you talking about, Richie? You know,
but there's also
what on earth are you talking about?
He's sort of simultaneously. I mean, he's a sort of simultaneously like this horrible proto-incel, reactionary right wing, but he's so desperate to be filled with it because Eddie accepts where he is and who he is.
Yes.
But you get these marvelous moments, like the last episode that we watched, where the one where they're playing chess, and Richie can't just play chess. He wants to invoke Noel Coward.
Yes. He wants to be seen to be playing chess.
But I also think he wants to feel it as well. I think he wants to feel like we can have martinis and we can have little we can have olives, but there are no olives, so we have to have prunes. And we can wear a smoking jacket and we can have a cigarette holder, but we don't, so I've got to smoke it through a bit of broken biro. And this aspirational thing isn't just purely Thatcherite. It's this desperation for some kind of creative fulfillment that he can't reach.
He's not got.
He's lacking.
This is it. He doesn't have it in him.
Deeply
he just doesn't
lacking.
have it in him. Whereas Eddie, that's the great dichotomy, isn't it? Eddie is content with who and what he is.
Eddie's absolutely fine.
Eddie's content that he's not Richie.
This is it. He has very simple. Eddie has very simple requirements. He knows what he wants and he gets them, and it's why people like Eddie.
He wants to
Eddie
say
has
that the
friends.
chemist is totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah, Old Spice. 37 pence a bottle. Oh my god, it is really well realised. I mean, people always remember. They remember the swearing. They remember the slapstick, which is great, by the way. The slapstick is amazing in Bottom.
It's good.
But
I mean, literally,
it's uncomfortable to watch at times. But yeah.
There is not a day goes by where we don't go in the kitchen together and one of us picks up a frying pan and smacks the other over the head repeattely with it, making that bang noise. We're always doing it.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's life in our household.
Of course, I wouldn't expect anything less.
You were wondering why the frying pan was bent the other day, Rob?
I know exactly why. Because so is my head. The idea of it was to miss my cranium.
You wear this paper's upside down, sir. So are my eyes.
My eyes.
I have a feeling that like we're aging ourselves on this podcast now.
Yes,
There are
I
people
think
listening to this who are not going
we're
to understand
digressing.
any of these references. You do know
Yeah.
that. But wow, guys! So what
Mm.
are you going to be doing with the
Oh,
podcast?
well, yes, we were just talking about the man, the myth. But yeah, we got as far as you hooked me in, and we got distracted from there, didn't we?
Yeah, well, the initial idea, I guess, was, oh well, maybe we should be like terribly linear about it and go through the studio albums and
Yes.
everything. And then I said, hang on a moment, he wasn't linear. In fact, what's that wonderful subtitle to Outside? Non-linear gothic drama hypercycle. So I said, no, I think the thing we should do is really cast our net wide. I said, so we started as a hook, really, with the 1969 album, because although it's not the beginning of the David Bowie story, it's most people's idea of
I
what
was
the
going to
beginning.
say, so you're not
Which seemed
going
like
for
a
the
sensible
folk
start.
stuff.
'Cause it's space
You're
opera.
not going for the laughing gnome then.
You had to keep me hooked. Yeah.
We'll go back. I want to go back to his 60s,
Okay.
his vaudevillian Anthony Newley stage, and also his quite raw rhythm and blues bands that he
Yeah.
was in the early 60s. But
Okay.
I think for most people, understandably believe that David Bowie begins with Major Tom. It begins with Space Oddity.
Yeah.
So we basically formatted the podcast that we would cover so many songs per podcast, and we would always try and get our podcast under the hour. And
It's the intention. Yeah.
that's the intent. And with a bit of editing, got it under the hour each time. But
So far, yeah.
Yes, dependent, I'd assume.
Here we go. Noted.
to fire off in all directions. So, for example, the next podcast we're doing on David because I know him so well. Is we're on first name terms.
Dave.
The other thing was, well, we might as well draw on things that we know and are interested in. And I know one of the things that Vicky's a bit of a geek for is money matters. She's interested in how finance works. So I said, right, we'll do a podcast on the Bowie
engineering me, I'm afraid. Yeah.
So we've got a podcast coming up on the time when he basically sold his intellectual copyright to raise money, almost like a futures. So the Bowie bonds.
Yeah, he securitized his future income stream for a set period of time. It's quite interesting.
First person ever to do it in that industry.
Oh, so he was like inventive and kind of.
He was pushing ahead
in a whole other
Absolutely.
way.
He really was the man who sold the world. I mean, he basically sold himself.
Yeah.
First, and then it worked, and everyone from James Brown to the
there was some judders near the end, but it did work, and a lot of people followed.
So we thought, well, we'll do a podcast on that. We'll come back to. We could do podcasts on live shows, films he was in, films that inspired him, art. And I'd love to do a podcast with Vicky's bass guitar teacher, because there are certain people who are locked into the Bowie story. For example, bass players like the bass player George Murray, who played with him throughout the late 70s, fantastic funk guitarist who for years disappeared and has recently sort of popped back up on this. He was basically a recluse for years, and he's sort of been rediscovered. People didn't know where he was.
Oh, so he's just sort of popped up like a
very
social
recently,
media.
Within the last, basically, Bowie's rhythm section for the end of the 70s was this fantastic, funky, soulful rhythm section. People who'd worked at the Apollo, they'd worked with James Brown. These fantastic black musicians, and three of them who formed this fantastic core were Dennis Davis on drums, Carlos Alomar on rhythm and guitar, and George Murray on bass. And I think Carlos Alomar, who had been a very close friend for Bowie's for years and years and years, Dennis Davis had sadly died, but he wanted to sort of find out where, and basically hunted for George Murray. Had sort of
tracked him down. Wow,
no
he
way!
Didn't have really a digital presence.
I was going to say, did he turn up on social media somewhere, or
basically Carlos unearthed him? It was like through a lot of word of mouth, and he found out where he was, and blah blah blah. And he's now they're working together again. They're playing together after all these years. So it's like, well, we'll have a podcast about these these bass players. There's also the other very iconic now, very famous bass player from his later band, Gail Ann Dorsey, who is
Oh yeah.
I say she's iconic. She's instantly recognizable.
I still keep singing her version of "Oh Superman"
oh yes,
at the top of my voice when I'm going on my motorbike. Yeah, I do get a few looks at traffic lights. Yeah.
So we knew we could just jump off into all sorts of places, that it didn't just have to strictly be about doing the songs, doing the albums. We could go off, as long as it had a connection. We could go off into.
It's got to keep our interest as well, hasn't it?
Of course. I mean, but given how much that he touched and influenced and inspired, it's basically infinite, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the other thing, I wanted to sort of establish it as a duo, but I said it's going to be great once we've established ourselves, to bring in people who I know will be such value added, because like yourself, George, with something like Labyrinth.
Oh, I would love to.
Yeah.
I would love to do the Labyrinth.
It's going to be great.
I know Jack is very interested in the Diamond Dogs album. Kit is
that's one of my faves. Yeah,
love Diamond Dogs.
Another mutual friend of ours, James, because it's not just about Bowie's music, it's about the music that he either produced or was closely involved with. James wanted to talk about Lou Reed, Transformer, which of course Bowie produced. I think he wanted to talk about the Iggy albums as well.
Okay.
But Bowie did several albums with Iggy, of course. He remixed Raw Power, the Stooges album, or mixed it rather, I should say. He obviously collaborated with Iggy on Lust for Life, The Idiot, blah blah blah. And I always say to people who are really deep diving into David Bowie, by all means listen to the David Bowie solo albums, but if you get to the late 70s and you're listening to Low and Heroes and Logic, you must listen to Lust for Life and The Idiot as well, because basically Bowie did 5 albums in a year. He did 2 with Iggy. It's like nuts that that really prolific period, and but to understand,
it's huge.
To get the full appreciation for Low, I really think it's important to listen to The Idiot, which he did with Iggy and came out as Iggy Pop. The Idiot. That album is such a great lead into Low, and Lust for Life is such a great lead into Heroes, and yet it doesn't sound anything like it, but it's got some of its attitude, it's got some of its romance, so it's it's and Transformer is a must. I think anyone who is deeply into Bowie, I mean, I'd say listen to a lot of Lou Reed and Velvet Underground albums anyway, but Transformer, because
I still feel like I've got quite a journey ahead of me.
There's still climbing this mountain.
Yes. Have we reached base camp yet? Maybe not.
I think you said about La Belle et la Bête earlier, George, in connection to Labyrinth. But even prior to Labyrinth, that film was it was a huge influence on several things that Bowie did. He even has a song named after it. I mean, the anglicised Beauty and the Beast. I think there's going to be a lot of grist for the mill, in terms of video production as well, because obviously some of his videos were seminal.
Yes.
Obviously, Ashes to Ashes.
I love that video.
And I was just thinking of Ashes to Ashes first.
Love that video.
But then, if you want like some of the later videos, I mean, there's the video to an early '90s song, "Jump They Say." It was years later that when I first saw Chris Marker's "La Jetée," I went, "Oh my God! Jump They Say" is basically riffing on La Jetée. And so you've the references and the influences are so manifold that I think we can just jump off in. And the other thing is, of course, as is the case with all podcasts, really, is it's a lens, but it does mean that it's going to be a lot about us, in the same way that not the same log ends up being about you, me, and Jack.
Our interests, and
totally.
That does come across, because I think we're talking between ourselves. It is, we get joined by the alien sometimes, but it's just us chatting. Yeah.
Yeah.
The xenomorph.
Oh, total xenomorph. She's with me at the moment, but other than
As is my cat, actually. She was just prowling over the wires here. I'm just having to shush her away.
I won't tell the xenomorph. No,
Ah!
she won't be too impressed.
But no, I mean, you've even got, as
Yeah.
I said earlier, you've even got like entire TV shows that are inspired by Bowie's music.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
things
Yeah,
like
that's a
Life
really
on
good point. I'd
Mars.
forgotten about Life on Mars. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know if you do talk about that, I'm so in. I'm so in. I love
Are
Well,
that
you
show.
making a note here?
Absolutely
Consider
love
it
that
done.
show.
Brilliant. Good.
Love that show. And Kit's
Funnily
also is
enough,
also a fan, by the way. Kit's a huge fan of that show.
Oh
Cool.
wow, maybe it could be a foursome.
That'd be
Oh,
great.
excellent.
I'm in.
Yeah.
It's oddly, I never persisted through Ashes to Ashes, and it was a curious thing because I remember at the time thinking, because I hadn't lived through the
Right.
70s, I have, I probably have the folk memory idea of what the
Mhm.
70s is, but because I did live through the 80s, and
Yes.
I found, of course, maybe it was because Ashes to Ashes was a stylized version of the 80s. I don't know,
Yes.
but at the time I was thinking, this isn't the 80s as I recall it.
No, it's worth persisting with though, because that's
Okay.
deliberate.
Oh right, I see.
Oh, okay.
That's part of the mythology. It's well worth persisting with.
I
There's
think I got a
there's
couple of
stuff.
episodes in. But I think there was also a part of me which, I saw Life on Mars go out. I've never seen it since. But I remember at the time thinking it was very successful at what it was trying to do. I think I remember being a little bit, I wish it had been more ambiguous at the end. I think
Yes, yeah.
it over-explained itself at the end. But maybe I think Ashes to Ashes came so hot on its heels
Mhm.
that I just was like, I'm not ready
Was
for
it like a next
another
season or something? Yeah.
iteration, you know.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Ashes to Ashes. It's worth persisting with, though. I really enjoyed that show. A lot of people did
And
exactly
she's a
that.
very
They
good
bowed
actor as
out.
well. So
Right.
there's a good reason to watch it because she's as strong an actor in her way as John Sim is in his way.
Absolutely, and a very good
very
foil to Philip Glenister.
Yeah. So yeah, it might be worth.
No, that sounds cool.
It's
Yeah.
it's a case of get the hankies out though. It's
Oh, okay.
sad. It's very dark. It's pretty bloody dark. There's certain parts of that particular show where I was in bits.
Oh
Absolute
no.
bits. Yeah.
Okay, we're prepared for it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't realised. It's a while ago it came out. I thought series 1 was Life on Mars and series 2 was Ashes to Ashes, but it seems like they were their own thing with series
They're
within themselves.
Yes, they are related to one another. They're part
Okay.
of the same overarching mythology, but they're
Right.
kind of their own things.
The same parallel universe, whatever it be.
Sort
Okay.
of, yeah. I don't want to say too much in case
okay.
I over-explain it. But no, yeah. They're kind of perennial watches for me. I watch them once a year, every year.
Oh, okay.
And very much enjoy them. Very much enjoy both of them.
And again, one of the other things, because it's been mentioned already, we'll almost certainly do something on David Lynch and how, not just in the superficial way their worlds collided, as in Fire Walk with Me or whatever, but in all sorts of ways that those guys do reflect each other and do come close to the orbit of one another, and certainly
echoing similar phenomena through different mediums. Yeah.
And I felt that even more after we went to we serendipitously, was it last year, ended up at a exhibition by David Lynch.
Wow, of his artwork.
Yes.
Wow.
Film, work, music, literally literally everything.
Oh, superb.
Yeah, and I really felt that as I came out, that their lives, their what they worked on, their projects, they're really, really interlinked.
Will you brave when the wind blows for the podcast?
Sorry?
Sorry?
Will you brave when the wind blows for the podcast?
Could do.
You could. I mean, again, I know it's.
I feel like I should. Yeah.
But in all honesty, please be prepared for that one and be in a good state of mind when you watch it.
I mean, I haven't.
Don't go to it feeling negative or anything, because you're not going to come out feeling good.
No,
it's a dark one. It's a dark one.
Yeah, it's a it's a tremendous song by him. It's one of his
Yeah.
least known songs. Hardly anyone knows his song. And I think interestingly as well, it's from a period where, because I think we were talking about this on Not the Same Log, about the difference between genius and senius, in that, you know, we're very fixed on the idea of auteurs, but of course that's not the reality of anything
Of
works.
course. Yeah.
And David Bowie really did have. I don't just think it's one of those cliches. I mean, as a long-term fan, I agree. He had a real dip around the late 80s in the stuff he was producing, except when either the collaborators were interesting or the subject matter was interesting. Now, I would say I love the songs from Labyrinth because they're giving him something. Labyrinth as a film, as a project, is giving him something to work on.
Yes.
When the Wind Blows is giving him something to work with. And I think it's almost staggering to think that When the Wind Blows, which is this incredible song, is contemporaneous with a lot of the songs on the Never Let Me Down album, which are just not very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because wherever he was casting his net was not bringing him any fish. But when someone like a Raymond Briggs project comes along,
Suddenly everything
Bowie's
comes together.
still
Right?
in there. He's still there. But
Okay.
he's like any one of us. He needs the right inspiration to come along at the right point. And
That's to be seeded like that. Okay.
yeah, I mean, you could make the argument that for an album like Never Let Me Down, it came with the worst kind of inspiration, which was, can you make it? It's EMI calling. Can you do another album?
Oh, I see. That's what it was. Yeah.
They've asked you to make them some money.
Yeah.
It's time to go out on tour.
There's a gap for a Bowie album on the market, so you know, get it
Yeah.
out there.
Step up, David. Come on.
Off you go.
As much as I'm very strong about guarding against this Dianification of Bowie and oh god, he was wonderful, he never did wrong. I think the story of his, and I'm looking forward to getting to it with Vic, the story of his mid to late 80s is fascinating in that all the stuff that's really famous about it, all the stuff that was released as albums, Tonight, Never Let Me Down, it's all pretty bad.
Yeah.
However, all the little things that were obscured that came through from little projects like scoring this song for When the Wind Blows, doing this little thing over here, doing that little thing over there, collaborating for usually it was films, because obviously some sort of film would spark something in him. He does a very good song around 1985 for the movie The Falcon and the Snowman called This Is Not America. It's a tremendous
another song,
not on any album. It's not, but
Isn't it? Okay.
no, but it's a little glimpse, rather like When the Wind Blows, into what Bowie's middle 80s could have been.
Right.
And it's a similar thing. He does an album for Iggy in the around about 1986 called Blah Blah Blah. Well, Iggy's obviously the vocalist. Iggy's writing the lyrics, but the music and the production is David Bowie, and the music on Blah 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 is 100 times superior to anything on Never Let Me Down.
Wow.
And it's like he needs either to sublimate his music through someone like an Iggy, or he needs like the inspiration of a film text or just something, anything, because it's not coming from the usual sources.
Right, so something as a jumping off point or as an anchor point for him. That's interesting.
It makes his period very interesting in the sense that I think the classic thing historically, you know, the pop culture history is, well, you know, 1984 to 1988, maybe even slightly longer, not a good time for Bowie, leave it alone. And it's like, well, don't leave it alone entirely, because
straightforward.
There's stuff to find.
Gems in there. And even Never Let Me Down, which was you know, I mean, it's a low performing album by his standards. It's got a song on the first side which isn't just good for that album, it's just good. Damn fucking good, full stop. And it's a song called Time Will Crawl.
I was just about to ask you which album and when, because that song is still amazing.
Time Will Crawl, for all its somewhat surrealistic lyrics. Part of the reason that's such a damn good song is because
it's got to be after 86.
Well, because it's inspired by Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Right. So again, you have an anchor, right? You have something there.
Yeah. And lo and behold, he comes out with a really great song. But he is definitely
So good.
someone who needs inspiration.
Yeah.
And when the inspiration is not there, that's when he can't seem to generate.
If I could ask, when the wind blows?
86, 87, something like that.
Yes.
So about the same time?
I think
Yeah.
so,
Interesting.
yes. It was definitely sort of mid to late 80s.
Yeah. So this was all rolling around, and we were all living with this as well. You know, that kind of daily threat of, well, it could just happen. Yeah.
Of course.
Until 89. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then
now
it
it's
all
back,
went away,
obviously.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Magically went away, and now it's all back.
So yeah, it is. I think it's going to give us.
Oh, it sounds like it's going to be a great project, guys. It sounds like it has real legs. You know, it sounds like it could be amazing.
Well,
where are you going to be? Where are you uploading it, by the way? Where can people find it?
Okay, well, I did when I agreed to do this, to stepping into this project for the long term, till death do us part, right?
It could very well be, couldn't it? Let's be honest. This could be like to the
might
very
never
end.
end this.
Yeah, but I did say because I am a big podcast listener. Podcasts are a big part of my life. That I understand that you do need to record a certain number, really, and have them in the bag and release those at the set periodicity, and you to be able to, if you want to keep it going. So we've got a number recorded that we've alluded to, but they haven't gone out yet. We are definitely getting help from you guys. Thank you so much on understanding.
My pleasure. Always.
The tech side and the actual how-to of podcasting, because it never crossed my mind to do this. But yes, the intention is we are now at the point where we've got enough, I think, to take the next step to find a platform we're going to use, but we'll make sure that they go out on all of the usual the standard podcast places. Yeah. So definitely, like, it'd be the usual Apple and all the rest of it. So we'll make sure it's like just accessible as anywhere else. But we haven't actually chosen the exact how we'll make that happen, but we will make it happen.
No problem. Well, when it does go out, throw me all of the links, and we'll put them in the Not the Same Log videos, and we'll put them in the Strange Playgrounds videos, and any that go up.
There is actually a funny link to Rick Mail. It's just occurred to me because I've been naming all the podcasts, and actually
we have little folders on our computer. Yeah.
One of the episodes, because we've been covering the 1969 album, which is the sort of more folky one. And there's an awful lot of songs on there which are basically about him being disgruntled by the hippie movement and.
Yes, that was a good one. That was.
I caught one of the episodes is called "Answer the Phone, Neil," which is a reference to the young ones.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, so we've got working titles for each of the episodes. Yeah,
answer the phone, Neil. That's brilliant.
Answer the phone, Neil.
Yeah.
So there you go. Tenuous link.
Quite inspired.
Superb. But as I say, guys, when this podcast, when it's up and running, watch out. There'll be.
I don't think it'll be long. Yeah, I think we've done quite a few recordings.
Excellent.
On episode 6, we both agreed that once episode 8 was in the can, so to speak, then we'd launch.
Superb.
So we'd always be 8 ahead, and then if something happened, like we took a holiday or someone had the flu or something,
I prefer the holiday reason, but yeah,
have that bank of them.
Well, what we find with Not the Same Log is it's so dependent on subject matter. Like our biggest hit is still Clash of the Titans.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Wow!
Oh, it's insane. Yeah. And it keeps
because
going up. It's not even close. It's not
even quite in what we in the mainstream of what we do.
No,
because the mainstream of what we do is this kind of horror fiction which has a meta or a media influence. Clash of the Titans was almost a busman's holiday for us.
Kind of was. It was deliberately outside of our milieu, wasn't it?
And I didn't even realize Clash of the Titans had such a cult following.
Apparently so.
I just know I always loved it, but I didn't realize.
So.
I mean, Alien seems to be doing quite good business.
Alien's doing well. Quatermass is doing very well. I mean, that one surprised me. I thought Quatermass might be slower. It might be a slower burn because of how obscure it is and how old it is, you know?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, people like that conversation. They really like that conversation.
Because it's interesting, because I sort of, in my head, fans of, say, Hammer's output are probably about the youngest my age.
Mm-hmm.
I always think of it as
at
being
the very youngest,
older demographic. Yeah. I don't know if Hammer means much to.
No, I don't think so.
people.
I think what happened with Quatermass is that people, younger people in particular, they just hear the people they admire, directors, writers, talk about
referencing
it.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what happened to
And
me.
then you have a discussion about it, so you've really made it accessible.
This is it. I think
Cool.
that's exactly it.
That's a good point. Yeah, because the references to Nigel Neal from the people who are in the circles that we talk about, Mass is pretty frequent.
It is pretty frequent. John Carpenter, huge fan, obviously.
Yeah.
Stephen Volk, hugely.
So it's fans stepping back further, like they've got to Bowie and they're going to go back again.
Absolutely. Yeah. The same thing with the Stone Tape, right? People keep Nigel Neal's work. That's how I came to it. I kept hearing people talking about the Stone Tape, you know, in these almost like mythological terms. This thing is so terrifying. This disturbed
really
us
scared.
so much.
Yeah.
So I had to
household.
go and watch it. I had to go and see it. You know, I had to dig it out from somewhere. And it's something else.
I saw those red lights for a very long time afterwards.
I'm not surprised. I am,
and
not
it's absurd,
surprised.
isn't it? It's absurd. It should be laughable.
Oh yeah, it shouldn't work. It totally should not work. Like on a present day set of eyes and sensibilities, it should not work.
The whole thing, not just that, just the entire thing. Yeah. And yet, there's very few things in life. Although I am a bit of a wuss around horror, because I don't go to horror for the reason that maybe some people go to horror. I don't go. This isn't to sound pretentious or elitist or anything like that. I'm genuinely not doing that. But obviously people who go to horror are interested in the ideas that it's conveyed and they love the medium. But there's also the visceral thrills. Mm-hmm. Now I think I'm highly unusual as a consumer of horror fiction, and whether it's on screen or in that I like to be unnerved. But it's rather like we were talking about The Fly earlier. It's like, I'm going to do the podcast but not rewatch it, because I think it's a magnificent film, but I can't sit through it. Yes. It's too much for me.
Yes, the visceral can be a problem.
And The Fly is like,
or actual
so
viscera.
Yeah, like literal. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, paradoxically, in a sense, the Stone Tape is one of the few things that has ever given me that 3 o'clock in the morning wake up. I'm absolutely terrified.
Yeah, it's unnerving, isn't it? It's unsettling. It's something deeper, isn't it? It's a bit like things like Ghostwatch. Ghostwatch does a similar thing to me, and the Blair Witch Project. It's not it's not, you know, the immediate scare, the immediate threat. It's something far more fundamental. It's existential, isn't it? It's an existential threat rather than an immediate one.
Yeah,
and it stays with you when you're at the laminar space of a forest or something.
Exactly.
You look peering in, you're like,
There's so little horror that does that, but when it does and it does it well, it's like, it's very good. It's very good. But yeah, well, guys,
thank you so much.
This was such a pleasure. It's such a pleasure.
Thing for you to do.
It really has. Thank you so much, George.
Oh no,
really
it's absolutely my pleasure. You know, anytime if you want to come on and talk about something else, by the way, or anything else, please hit me up. I think it'd be great fun. You know,
well, I've really enjoyed this evening.
Yeah,
it's been great.
It has. It's been a blast. And before we go, is there anything beyond the podcast that you'd like to throw out there?
I mean, as everyone knows from who maybe connects with not the same log, that they can always be really, really bored of my voice anyway. But if they want to be bored further, that all my audiobooks that I've had to do over the time are available from that place, which shall not be named.
The place that shall
and
not
other
be
sources
named.
and other sources.
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't have a back catalogue. I've got nothing.
No, nothing.
You're in a
Okay,
very
no
different,
problem.
You're in a very different
But
line.
Yes.
that's going to change, right? There is going to be stuff.
Yeah.
And as for myself, guys, I'll keep it brief. Yeah, I'm around here on Exaggerated Elegy, but there are lots of chats like this, and there's a couple more going up. And all of my published work you can find at strangeplaygrounds.com and the place that shall not be named as well. If you go and type in my name, George Daniel Lee, you'll find my author page and all my short story collections and whatnot. Guys, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This
that was very generous of you.
Oh no,
it
my
really
pleasure.
has been. Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And until next time, yeah.
Until next time. Thanks, George.
Bye bye.